George Allen, joined by Doug Gerlach, and we welcome you to our telecast of tonight's Division I Class AAA high school football title game. Featuring the Hawks of Apollo, the Knights of St. Mary's. They've seen each other before this year. Earlier in the campaign, it was St. Mary's prevailing by a score of 10-0. But Apollo has come on exceptionally strong of late. This should be a great football game.
It should very well. But Apollo last week, of course, upset the top-ranked team in the state, the McClintock Chargers. McClintock first in the state in offense and first in defense. But let's keep something in mind. Apollo has finished their regular season 5th in the state in defense. That is why the Apollo Hawks are here. And in fact, that's why St. Mary's is here as well. Although St. Mary's has a pretty good offense, both teams last week had goal line stands that were very instrumental in their victories and propelling them into tonight's championship game.
Let's try and take a look at some keys for tonight's football game on the part of each team, Apollo and St. Mary's, if they hope to win.
As far as Apollo High is concerned, the Hawks have had trouble offensively here in 1985, although they have played better in the playoffs than they did during the regular season. If Apollo is going to have success offensively, Bethea needs to have a pretty good night throwing the football. Bethea, the quarterback for the Apollo Hawks. They can run the football. Collins is an outstanding running back. He's picked up more than 1,000 yards this year. When they get in trouble and they need yardage, they will run to the side of the line where they have the tight end drape and the tackle pay. As far as St. Mary's is concerned, they have a big play capability in Reggie McGill. He is the only returning offensive starter from last year's championship team. He can break the big play, and that could be an important factor tonight. It doesn't appear right now that Apollo has anyone in that offensive lineup who can break the big play. Both teams, as I said a moment ago, are here because they have outstanding defensive units, and because of that, we expect pretty much a low-scoring football game.
Keep in mind the fact that St. Mary's comes into this ball game perfect, 13-0. They have won 22 games in a row, and that ties the school's longest winning streak ever. They have won back-to-back state championships back in 1967 and 68. St. Mary's is the last AAA high school football team in the state of Arizona to win back-to-back state championships. They're trying to duplicate that again. Apollo had the worst record of any team entering the playoffs, 5-5, but they've come on strong the last 3 games in the playoffs. So it's been a long road for both of these football teams from September 13th to get into this championship game. St. Mary's rolled through an undefeated campaign in 1985, finishing the regular season 10-0 en route to the Skyline Region Championship. The first round of the playoffs saw the Knights defeat a tough Moon Valley squad 20-6 to advance to quarterfinal play against the surprising Firebirds of Chaparral. Reggie McGill's running and the toe of Mike Courtwright with 3 field goals led St. Mary's to a 44-13 rout. On to the semifinals and a rematch of last year's state title game with Tucson Saguaro. For 3 quarters, the Knights had trouble mustering any kind of offense and trailed 9-0 entering the 4th quarter. Courtwright drilled a 30-yard field goal with 7 minutes to play to get St. Mary's on the board. And then came McGill's heroics. With a little over 2 minutes to play, Reggie circled the end, ran over a final defender, and scampered 28 yards for the winning touchdown, enabling the Knights to reach the championship game for the 2nd year in a row. And maybe Coach Pat Farrell had to do his best job of coaching this year with a young and inexperienced squad. Pat, although they were calling Apollo really the Cinderella team of this tournament, and I guess, well, they should, 5 losses here in the finals, it's been kind of a Cinderella season for you. I don't think too many people thought you'd make it back to the title game this year.
That's right, George. It's kind of dual Cinderellas out there. And we feel exactly that way. We're proud to be here, but at the same time, it kind of came as a shock as we kept winning and the kids kept the undefeated string going. So we're really excited to be here and hope we can take advantage of the opportunity.
What's been the secret of going undefeated this year?
Oh, boy, I wish I could put it in a recipe. I'd sell the book and make a fortune, but there's a lot of intangibles here at St. Mary's. Sometimes they all fall in the same place. The chemistry with the kids, the coaching staff. I think really the bottom line is that these kids really walked out and gained a lot of confidence from last year's state championship and decided, hey, why not give it a try? Let's take a realistic shot at defending that state championship with another one, and they were not to be denied. The coaches have done a great job, but the kids still have to go out on that field and play ball, and I think that's where the credit belongs.
You've played Apollo once this year, and you beat them 10-0 in a very tight football game. They traditionally play you very tough, and I think most people feel it'll be no different tonight.
That's right. Year after year, we really look forward to a tough ball game with Apollo, especially in terms of a defensive struggle. I don't remember many games where many points have been scored. I don't anticipate that in a state championship game. They're playing the best defense I think I've ever seen Apollo High School play, and as a result of that, they are where they are, and they deserve to be there.
Final question. Will you use maybe one or two plays tonight, have it in the arsenal in case you need it, that maybe you haven't used before this year?
We've got a couple. I had a good talk with Ed Doherty last Sunday, and of course Ed's a Mile coach from back in the late 60s and a great football coach, and he gave me some good advice. He said, don't do anything strange. He said, go with those things that got you there, keep the kids loose, and you'll find a way to win. And I think we're going to stay with that. We've got a few little gimmicks here and there, but we do that with every game we play. Other than that, it's our basic offense and very sound and well-prepared defense.
Pat, always a pleasure covering the Knights. No different this year. One more to go. This is the big one here this evening. And how about running down for our viewers now your starting offensive and defensive units?
You bet. I'm real proud of these kids. A lot of them are young and all of them inexperienced in terms of not having been around on the field last year. So they've just done a great job for us. On offense, our split end, Michael Richmond, our tight end, Brent Byerly, our two offensive tackles, David Musselman, a junior, and Tommy Apodaca, a senior. Our offensive guard at 5'6", Morris Delgado, and a two-way player at the other guard, Sean Murphy. Our center, another junior, Mike Halverson. Our quarterback, young man who's done a great job in just throwing 3 interceptions this year, and orchestrating the offense, Carlos Rodriguez. Our fullback and really the heart of our offense, Reggie McGill. At halfback, a big play kid who can go all the way at any time he gets the football, Ed Mall. And a wingback with good hands and good running ability in Kevin Scott. On the other side of the ball, our defense, who I really think is the heart and soul of our football team this year in terms of why we are here, is really led by everybody. We don't have a star over there, but all these young men contribute tremendously to our success. The defensive ends, a senior, all-league player Mike Diaz. The other defensive end, our biggest kid, only kid over 200 pounds, Brent Byerly. Our two defensive tackles, both at 180 pounds, John Longo, a junior, and John Martinson, a junior. Our linebackers, 2 of them juniors, led by our outside backer, Rusty Bruce, our middle linebacker, whom we put a lot of pressure on, Chauncey Ray, and our strong side linebacker, Sean Murphy. Our cornerback, on one side, the strong side, an all-league cornerback as a junior, Kevin Scott. The other cornerback and one of our little munchkins at 5'6", 125 pounds, Rick Lopez. And our dual munchkin at safety, Mike Richmond, who's also that same size. And our only returning starter from last year's state championship team at the strong safety, Robert Morquecho.
Apollo's season was a series of peaks and valleys. They lost 3 of their first 4 games, and despite losing their regular season finale to Greenway, qualified for the playoffs with a 5-5 record. Suddenly, strange things started happening. The Hawks knocked off Thunderbird for the second time this year, 31-13 in round 1. Next up was Alhambra in the quarterfinals, a team that had beaten Apollo earlier in the year. Apollo's defense made the big plays all night long. And finally, with 4.5 minutes to play, Tom Collins went up the middle from 9 yards out to give the Hawks a hard-fought 6-0 win. Apollo then met top-ranked McClintock in the semis. Regulation ended in a 10-10 tie, forcing an Arizona playoff. On their first possession, Apollo scored on a brilliant 35-yard run by Collins. The conversion was good. Back came the Chargers to score, but they elected to go for the 2-point conversion and the win. Again, it was defense for the Hawks. They stacked up Kent Kiefer inches short of the goal line for a 17-16 win and a spot in tonight's finals. And Coach Rudy Pacheco is hoping the slipper fits this year's Cinderella team. Rudy, they talk about this ball club being a Cinderella type of team. You go 5-5 during the regular season after losing 3 of your first 4 games. How do you explain the fact that this club was able to make the turnaround and come back down and reach the championship?
Well, I tell you what, our goal at Apollo High School has always been to make the playoffs, and to be quite honest with you, and we don't plan it this way, George, but we've really been slow starters notoriously, and I think if you ask around at least the west side of town, they tell you not even bother to go watch Apollo play until about the 5th ball game of the year. So this club is kind of a typical type team we've had here in the last 5 years.
What'll be the key tonight in beating St. Mary's?
Well, I think we have to play good field position. Defense has carried us, and we're going to run the football and throw it just enough to keep them honest, just like we did last week, hopefully.
Defense really seems to have been the key to your success, especially in the playoffs, and I would imagine you're thinking defense is going to have to carry you a long way tonight.
Right, I think that's the name of our game, and we're going to come out, and if they score a lot of points on our defense, then I guess maybe we could be in a little trouble.
How much will the fact that Courtwright is such a fine kicker for St. Mary's change the situation of the game regarding field position?
Okay, I definitely, you know, the kid's got the national record, and he's the most outstanding kicker in the history of the state. And we're going to try and make sure that we don't lose our field position. So you know, our punting game's been real good. And I'll be honest with you, we have two place kickers that have been kind of overshadowed all year, and they've done a pretty good job for us.
Rudy, if we can, let's talk about maybe some of the ball players to watch on the part of St. Mary's who you're going to have to contain tonight.
Well, obviously Reggie McGill, one of the outstanding backs in Arizona. He's only a junior, but you know, he's a quality back. They have, you know, it was funny, you and I were talking earlier about the size of St. Mary's, but I tell you what, they hit you. They're well schooled. They have an outstanding defensive end and tight end in Byerly. I think that the Rodriguez kid has done a good job for them. He's not a Steve Bellis, but he has kept their offense wide open enough that they've scored a lot of points. So, you know, we have our work cut out.
It's been a great season for you and the Apollo Hawks as you've come a long way. One more to go here tonight, and if you would now, maybe for our viewers, run down your starting offensive and defensive lineup for the ball game this evening.
All right, at tight end, number 89, Jim Drape, a senior. Left tackle, Robbie Hemby, a senior. Left guard, Ricky Marquez and Craig Dahl, both juniors. Our center, Dennis McCabe, a junior. At right guard, senior, number 73, Vic Stizzoni. At right tackle, Gary Pay, a senior. At split end, the alternate split ends, a senior, Jerry Weber, and number 1, Matt Grott. Our quarterback, a junior, Darren Bethay. At fullback, another junior, Conrad Swanson. At halfback, number 31, Tommy Collins. And at flanker, another senior, Craig Bauer. Defensively, we'll line up at left end, a senior, Kevin Sullivan. Alternate left end, senior Bob Thurman. At left tackle, Dennis McCabe. At nose guard, Vic Cizzoni. At right tackle, Gary Pay. At right end, Jim Drape. The inside linebackers, Mark Lopez and senior Bobby Ray. At left corner, Captain Aaron Turner. At right corner, Craig Bauer. At strong safety, junior David Hickey. And at free safety, number 20, junior Juan Ross.
So you have seen both teams and heard from the coaches. Coming up next on ESPN, it's for all the marbles, the AAA Division I high school title game with Apollo and St. Mary's.
Who makes the best chicken nugget? Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's?
From Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, it's the AAA Division I championship game. It's the Hawks of Apollo High School and the Knights of St. Mary's. This portion of tonight's game is brought to you by Bear Cover with 4 locations in Phoenix, Mesa, and Tempe. Handling our reports down on the field tonight, and you'll be hearing from him throughout the course of this championship football game, will be Chuck Pedoni. And let's right now go down to the field for this report from Chuck.
Well, I had a chance to talk to both coaches, and Rudy Pacheco and Pat Farrell both looked just a little bit nervous, but I was surprised that Rudy seemed a bit more nervous despite being the underdog, and you'd think that the favorite would certainly have a lot more to be worried about. But we'll be here trying to bring you a lot of insights into what's going to happen during the game, possibly look at if there are some.
All right, Chuck, thank you very much. We await the toss of the coin at midfield to see who will be kicking, who will be receiving. Things to keep in mind, we mentioned before, St. Mary's has won 22 games in a row. their longest winning streak ever in the history of the school, 22 games, achieved back in 1967 and 68. So they'll be trying for a brand new school record with a victory here tonight. They'll also be trying to duplicate the back-to-back state championships orchestrated by the 67 and 68 team. That was the last AAA team to win back-to-back state championships. St. Mary's has been successful overall. In the history of these two schools, they lead the overall series 6 wins to 2. There has been 1 tie. But Apollo comes in tonight, as we mentioned, sky high, especially coming off that victory over McClintock last week. Right now, from Sun Devil Stadium, we'll have the playing of our national anthem. The St. Mary's Band, the playing of our national anthem as we're just moments away from the start of things. You know, Apollo a year ago had a better record at the end of the regular season than they did this year. They were 5-4-1 in 1984 and missed the playoffs for the first time since 1978. And here they are back in the championship game in 1985. Now, the men who will call this football game tonight. Your referee will be Bob Madrid. The umpire is Jerry Heck. The linesman, Jerry Morris. Chuck Maynard will be the line judge, and Paul LeCompte will be the back judge. Those are the 5 men, the officials working tonight's AAA Division I high school championship football game. I think pretty much, Doug, you look at these two football teams, they come in full strength, which is nice to get into a championship game, and really no excuses for either team. Both teams are full strength.
Something else that I think makes this game interesting is the fact that you said these two teams are the same division, the Skyline. They know one another. They know what surprises each coach, Pat Farrell for St. Mary's and Rudy Pacheco for Apollo, can pull. So it's going to be just lining up and going after one another. There isn't going to be, you wouldn't expect in any event, teams that know each other and have played each other once already, you wouldn't expect the game to be decided on a fluke.
Take a look at past scores of these two teams. In 1981, St. Mary's prevailed in the first round of the playoffs, 21-0. In 1982, these two teams played to a 0-0 tie. 2 years ago, in 1983, it was Apollo turning the tables on St. Mary's, 13-9. Last year, St. Mary's winning in a game we televised on ESPN, 17-9. And this year, in a game at Glendale Community College, St. Mary's prevailing by a score of 10-0 as the captains meet at midfield. For Apollo, it'll be number 21, Aaron Turner. And he is also out there with number 89, Jim Drape. For St. Mary's, Brent Byerly is out there along with Mike Richmond. So we'll have the flip of the coin shortly to decide who will be receiving, who will be kicking off. A good-sized crowd here at Sun Devil Stadium. Naturally, St. Mary's has always had a great following. I think every alumnus in the Valley has come to see this one. Good crowd, and Apollo has brought a horde of fans as well from the west side. Let's see if we can hear what's going on down on the field.
11 to third in the second half. Your choice. Which goal would you like to defend? You'll defend one goal. Put you back to that goal. St. Mary's has won the toss. Elected to return, and will kick off.
So there you heard it. St. Mary's won the toss. They elected to refer to the start of the second half. They would kick off. Apollo will be receiving. And we are just about set to get this one underway. It's nice to have you with us on ESPN as we wrap up the 1985 high school football season. We might also congratulate the Tigers of Gilbert High School, who earlier this evening captured the AAA Division II high school football state championship with a convincing 27-0 win over the Cobras of Cactus High School. So Mike Portwright will be kicking off. Apollo will touch the football first offensively. And as Doug pointed out earlier, it's been a team that's had trouble offensively this year.
Although Apollo has really started to come around here in the later stages of the season. They picked up 17 points against McClintock last week, 10 in regulation and 7 in the playoff. They had a close game with Alhambra 2 weeks ago, 6-0, but they routed Thunderbird 31-13 in the opening round of the playoffs, so they have started to come to life, primarily because of the quarterback for the Apollo Hawks, number 7, Darren Bethay. He did not get off to a good start this year for Apollo. In fact, after having an outstanding year last year as a member of the junior varsity squad at Apollo High and looking to be the quarterback of the future, he got off to a miserable start in preseason, so much so that he sat on the bench the first 2 games. He finally got his first start in game 3. He had some problems in game 4, which Apollo lost. Apollo starting the year 1-3. But since then, he has made steady progress. He needs to have a good game if Apollo's going to win tonight.
All right, Conrad Swanson is one of the deep receivers for Apollo, along with Sammy McIntyre. And Mike Courtwright will kick it off for St. Mary's. So sit back and enjoy on ASPN tonight's AAA Division I state championship game. Courtwright, who is the national record holder in career field goals. He has kicked 35 in his brilliant career at St. Mary's. It's all on the line tonight. We are underway. Deep kick, which will drive McIntyre into the end zone. There'll be no run back. They'll bring it out to the 20, where the Hawks will start at 1st and 10. So Courtwright kicks it deep into the end zone. It is an Arizona high school rule. If the ball is received in the end zone on a kickoff, you cannot run it back. It's got to start at the 20-yard line. So here we go with the Apollo offense. You look at Drape, the tight end, and Weber, the split end. But they at quarterback with his running back Swanson and Collins. Bauer will be the flanker. The front line is a big one. Hemby and Marquez, the left side. McCabe anchors at center, with Stazzoni and Pay on the right side of the line. 1st and 10 for the Hawks. Just underway from Sun Devil Stadium. The final game of the 1985 high school football season. Hand the ball off to the second man through. Collins, and he is stacked up by Sean Murphy, the right side linebacker, 6'1 senior, 177. So Collins on his first carry gains a yard or 2. It'll be 2nd down and long. For the Knights up front, Diaz, Byerly, Longo, and Martinson across the front. And a good linebacking trio of Bruce, Chauncey Ray, and Sean Murphy. Ray, the leading tackler on the ball club. And an excellent secondary of Scott and Lopez, Richmond, and Morquecho. 2nd down, 9 to go. They gave Collins a yard on the play. He tries again, and he gets nowhere. Got maybe another yard, certainly no more than that. And again, that tough St. Mary's defense, led by defensive end Mike Diaz, the 6'2 senior, 188, stacks him up. Give him a yard, call it 3rd down and 8 to go, and we face a passing situation early. You look at Rudy Pacheco, the head coach of Apollo. He had a great career at Glendale High before coming to Apollo 5 years ago. He went 10-0 with one Glendale high school team.
What happened on that we didn't
and
get to
since
the
coming
corner?
to Apollo, they missed the playoffs only once, that being in 1984.
When the Hawks pass, they like to go to Weber, number 12, who split wide to the left side. He has 19 receptions this year.
They'll run the football. Here's Tommy Collins with a hole. He's got a 1st down up over the 30-yard line. So they cross up the Knights defense and run on 3rd and long, and they get the 1st down. Tackle made by Rusty Bruce, the left side linebacker, a junior, and it's 1st and 10 Apollo.
That's number 51, center Dennis McCabe, leading the way. After he snapped, he broke off to his left side, opened the hole for Collins against the St. Mary's defense that was expecting a pass.
So the initial 1st down of the football game. We're a minute and a half into the 1st quarter. Apollo has it 1st and 10 from their own 31. Split backs in the backfield. Collins again. Stiff arms a defender and is forced out of bounds up and around the 34-yard line. A gain of 3, 2nd and 7 from the secondary. Kevin Scott forced him out of bounds, and Collins has been the workhorse thus far.
Didn't get much help on that sweep. Number 73, Stazzoni, who plays both ways for the Hawks. The Hawks start 5 men both ways. Was out there trying to give him a little assistance, but Collins principally picked up those 3 yards by himself.
Of course, as Doug pointed out earlier, Collins, a 1,000-yard rusher this year for the Apollo Hawks. And he is the one that broke off the big 35-yard touchdown run in overtime a week ago against McClintock, which put the Hawks in this championship game. 2nd down, 7 to go. Pitch it out to Collins, whose jersey is ripped. He breaks free from one tackle and is dragged down. He's about 2 or 3 yards shy of a 1st down. It'll bring up 3rd down, and about 3 to go for a 1st down. So So again, another third down play coming up. The last third down play was 3rd and long, and instead of a pass play, Apollo elected to run it with Collins, and he got enough yardage for the first down. We'll see what they call this time.
Both Byerly and Murphy had a chance to stop him for a loss, but it was finally Chauncey Ray who brought him down.
Ray, the leading tackler for this St. Mary's team. He's a linebacker. He's just a junior. He's got another year to go at St. Mary's. And as good as this year's St. Mary's team is, they say next year's will be even better. Movement along the line, and we'll see what the penalty is. 9 minutes, 38 seconds to go. First quarter, no score. This is the initial possession of the game by Apollo. St. Mary's says it's against Apollo. So it'll be a 5-yard mark-off against the Hawks of Apollo, which will bring up now a 3rd and long situation. Apollo looking for revenge from an earlier 10-0 setback at the hands of St. Mary's. That game was played on October the 25th at Glendale Community College. I don't think either coach really feels that that game means a thing heading into tonight's football game. So it is now 3rd down, 8 to go from the 33. We'll keep it on the ground again. And a gain of about 3 up to the 37-yard line. That'll leave them well shy of a first down. And so the first punting situation of the night faces the Hawks of Apollo. Take another look. Boy, Swamp.
It's number 78, Martinson, who finally brings him down, along with Ray, number 35. Again, a passing situation, and Apollo doing what Rudy Pacheco said on our pregame show. He's going to try to run as much as he can.
Brian Dotsey back to punt. He'll kick to Mike Richmond, the lone deep back, and it's a good kick, and it chases Richmond back to his own 22-yard line. He looks for blocking, trying to circle the end, maintaining his footing, and he is finally dropped at the 24-yard line. So the Knights will touch the football for the first time on offense now, 1st and 10 from their own 24. Mike Richmond been a big part of the success of the St. Mary's team here in 1985. Kevin Sullivan in on the last tackle. You look at the Byerly, Richmond, Rodriguez, McGill, Eddie Mull, and Kevin Scott. The skill position people with Musselman, Delgado, Halverson, Murphy, and Apodaca along the line for the Knights of St. Mary's. First time on offense. Hand the ball off. Reggie McGill, he's out over the 30 to the 31-yard line. He got 7. Ball at 2nd and 3. The tackle made by Aaron Turner from the secondary, a 5'10" senior. So the Knights go to their bread and butter back on the first down. Reggie McGill, who is averaging over 7 yards a carry this year. He has rushed for over 1,400 yards in the season.
If Turner had not made that tackle, McGill was gone. Turner was the only one who was over there to stop it.
2nd down, 3 to go. Carlos Rodriguez, what a year he's had. He's thrown only 3 interceptions all year. McGill is hit and dropped in the backfield. He no sooner touched the football than big Kevin Sullivan, the 5'10" senior defensive end, made the stop. So it'll bring up 3rd down for St. Mary's. Excellent play that time by Sullivan. 3rd down and about 6 to go. The linebackers for Apollo, Lopez and Bobby Ray, and they are good ones. And a secondary of Turner, Bauer, David Hickey, and junior Juan Ross. 3rd down, 6 to go. St. Mary's. Good pass out to Kevin Scott in the flat, but he can't break free, and he's hit and dropped again by Turner. Quick Bauer also over there on the tackle. No gain by Scott on that pass play. It'll bring up 4th down. And on will come the punting unit for St. Mary's. Brent Byerly will punt the football away. The line of scrimmage now the 29 of St. Mary's. And Byerly steps inside his own 15 to await the snap from center Mike Halverson. Clean snap. Byerly steps into it and gets it away. It's a high kick. Coming down and returned for about a yard or 2. By Juan Ross of Apollo, and down on the tackle, Morris Delgado, only a 5'6" senior, but 190 pounds. So the second offensive opportunity for Apollo, and they gained some good field position.
Each team has had the football once, and Apollo has really gained because of it. The Hawks now take over on their own 46-yard line after holding St. Mary's on its first possession of the night. It took St. Mary's a while to get on track last week. The Knights finally scoring all of their points, in fact, with just more than 7 minutes to go in the victory over Saguaro. And the Knights get off to a slow start, at least in the first possession of the season.
They send Bauer in motion and hand the ball off to Conrad Swanson. He puts his head down and plows up the midfield for a gain of about 4. It might be the first time anybody has carried the ball for Apollo other than Tommy Collins tonight. Give him 4, call it second down, 6 to go. Ball just shy of midfield on the Apollo side of the playing field. 6 minutes to go, first quarter, no score. You take a look at the time remaining in the first period of play from Sun Devil Stadium. The Division I AAA high school football title game. Both teams representing the Skyline region. Handoff goes to Collins, and St. Mary's stacks him up right at about the line of scrimmage. You see a lot of white jerseys converging. You see Richmond getting up off the bottom of the pile, number 9. Got maybe a yard. It's still going to be a long way to go for a first down. It's third down and about 5 or 6 to go.
I'll tell you who made that play. Martinson was getting, had a man who was trapping on him and had him right in his face, and he just shoved him aside and put a bear hug on the ball carrier.
Double flanker setup to the left side. Weber split wide left. Bauer in the slot left side, and Bethea to put it in the air. Now he's going to roll and tuck it under and keep it. He's got a lot of running room. First down at the St. Mary's 40. As the left side was clear, and Rick Lopez came up from the secondary to make the stop, but not before Bethea picked up 10 yards and a first down.
You know, Bethea came out of here, and he didn't spend a lot of time looking for receivers trying to break free. He made up his mind almost instantly after rolling out that he was going to run for the first down because there was nothing between him and the first down other than a lot of green turf.
Bethea may have injured himself. He limps, as you can see, coming to the line of scrimmage. It is first down and 10. Apollo inside the 40 at St. Mary's. Hand the ball off up the middle, and look at Swanson go as he drives down to the 31-yard line of St. Mary's. He got 9. Collins, the ball carrier, not Swanson. Collins, a 5'10" senior, and he got 9 yards. It'll be second down, 1 to go as Apollo makes their deepest penetration here in the first period.
Collins has had his jersey torn, and the number on the bank side is all but obliterated.
Collins, who has had some big runs this year. 25-yard touchdown run against Thunderbird and a 5-yard touchdown run against the T-Birds in the playoffs. It's Collins again around the right side, and he drives for a first down. He's got it inside the 30, down to about the 27 of St. Mary's. First down, Apollo. So Apollo moving the football very effectively. Take a look at Bethea as he hands off, and you see him limping. That was on that 10-yard first down run just a moment ago. Ross out of the football game now for Apollo. First and 10 for the Hawks from the 28-yard line at St. Mary's. 3.5 minutes to go. First quarter, no score. This is Swanson. He finds a big hole, and he's going to go all the way for an Apollo touchdown. Swanson from 28 yards out. Broke through a hole around the left side, and there was nothing but green grass in front of him as he scampered untouched into the end zone. And the Hawks lead by a score of 6-0. The extra point attempt is up. It is good. Time out on the field, 3:30 to go first quarter. The Hawks lead the Knights by a score of 7-0.
We get to look at it again. Collins, number 31, led the way for his running back, or for his colleague in the backfield, and number 52 is Greg Dahl, who is out there, and Dahl is the man who screened his defensive counterpart out and let Swanson run to the end zone.
Great run by Swanson.
And a big block by Dahl.
Well executed play by the Hawks of Apollo. Hey, they're still riding a high, and they lead in this game by a score of 7-0. Take a look from another angle.
Here it is again. Collins is leading through the hole, and Dahl is pulling from his interior line position to screen out a Knight on the play, and Swanson wasn't touched going through there.
So quickly, Apollo breaks out to the lead. 3.5 minutes to go now, first quarter. Frank Abate, 5'8" senior, will kick off for Apollo.
Did you tell him you weren't trying to get him out?
Well, the Knights shut them out the last time they met 10-0. They will not shut them out here tonight. It is 7-0 Apollo. Bouncing kick, and it comes down, and it's grabbed by Lopez. It comes back out over the 20. He's out over the 25, out over the 30, and dragged down up and around the 32-yard line. Rick Lopez returns the ball back to the 32. First and 10, St. Mary's. Let's go down to Chuck Bedoni.
Conrad, what play was it?
That was a 30-yard sweep on that play.
Did everything go as planned? Did you right at the hole, or dit you have to make any improvisation?
The blocking was great. My lead back, Tom Collins, which I usually block for, just made a great block, and the hole was there.
Great run. Good luck.
All right, it's now first and 10 for St. Mary's. The ball at their own 32-yard line as they have to play catch-up football now. Here comes Ed Mull. Mull, good hard runner, is hit and dropped at about the 34. He got only a yard or two as Mark Lopez came up quickly from his linebacker spot to make the tackle, the 6'2 senior. The scoring drive for Apollo, and it was very nicely done. 54 yards, 6 plays. They consumed a shade over 3 minutes on the clock. And the big touchdown run by Conrad Swanson. And the kick by Dotson was good. 7-0 in favor of Apollo. 2.5 minutes to go, first quarter. St. Mary's 13-0 on the season, bidding for an unbeaten campaign in their second straight state championship. Carlos Rodriguez calling signals. Penalty marker down. They may have taken too much time.
Well, both teams find themselves in positions that are similar to where they were last week at this time. Apollo jumped out to an early lead against McClintock, although trailed at the half. St. Mary's fell behind to Saguaro very quickly, 3-0 after 1 quarter and 6-0 at halftime. One thing you know for certain, even though Apollo has struck quickly here, the Knights are not going to panic.
That man won't panic either right there, Pat Farrell. They've been in similar situations before. Rudy Pacheco's got to be feeling a lot better about things right now as Hawks have jumped out to an early lead. They split Richmond wide to the left side, put Kevin Scott in the slot, and hand it off to Eddie Mull, who'll throw the halfback pass. He's got a man open. It's complete up to midfield to Kevin Scott, who was dragged down by Aaron Turner. It'll be a first down St. Mary's as the Knights go to the halfback option pass, and they work it to perfection.
Knights tried this play last week without success. If Mull had led Scott just a bit more, it would have been 6 points for St. Mary's. Turner was beaten, but then he was able to recover because the pass was underthrown. Nonetheless, the Knights set up in Apollo territory for the first time tonight.
From the Hawk 49, first and 10. They send Mull in motion and give it off to McGill up the middle, and he drives forward for a gain of 2 or 3 before he's tripped up and dropped. First man to make the stop, Bob Thurman, the defensive end, 6-foot senior, 180 pounds. Down to the 46, give him a gain of 3 and call it second down and 7 to go. 1:50 to go, first quarter. Apollo on a 54-yard scoring drive, capped off by a 27-yard run by Conrad Swanson, leads in this game 7-0. Apollo comes into the game with a record of 8 wins, 5 losses. They made it to the state semifinals in 1979 and lost eventually to state champion Amphitheater. Rodriguez to put it in the air. He's throwing, it's intercepted. Aaron Turner picked it off. He's back up over the 30. Breaks to the outside. He's over the 40 and dropped at the 43. It's first and 10 Apollo on the interception by Turner. The pass intended for Mike Richmond. Tackle made by Darrell Harris of St. Mary's. So a turnover on the part of the Knights gives the Hawks the football, first and 10.
Look at it again. Richmond was slanting in from the left side. That's the only man Rodriguez looked at. He was looking right at him and then threw it right by him.
You heard Pat Farrell say in the pregame, his quarterback Rodriguez had thrown only 3 interceptions all year, and he throws a big one here, and that thwarts the St. Mary's drive.
Turner just happened to be in the right spot because that pass should have been completed.
Hawks have the ball. First and 10 as we wind down this first period. Here's Swanson breaking through for big yardage. He's got a first down into St. Mary's territory at the 45-yard line.
It's the same play the Hawks ran for a touchdown the last time they touched the football.
Tell him we can get the guy that intercepted.
There's no question about it. The Hawks are really pumped up for this one tonight. And all of their fans on their feet across the way. Conrad Swanson with a big gain, first and 10, Apollo. St. Mary's defense being put to the test early in this football game. Handed off this time, Collins fights for yardage. Maybe got back to the line of scrimmage, no more, before he's finally snapped up. We'll see where they mark it. Give him no gain. Second and 10. Mike Diaz on the tackle for St. Mary's. Half a minute to go first period. And this might well be coming up if they get it off the last play of the first quarter. We hope you're enjoying the action on ESPN. Nice to have you with us. Tonight's game sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken. We do chicken right. Second down, Bethea on a fake. He will put it in the air, and he's got a receiver off Craig Bauer's hands down at the 35 of St. Mary's. Rusty Bruce in the linebacking spot over covering for the Knights. That stops the clock with 8 seconds to go in the first period. It'll bring up third down and long.
Well, there's Pacheco trying to mix things up and keep the Knights honest, because you would have thought second and long, but in St. Mary's territory, that the Hawks would have tried to run it, and instead he put the ball up, something he has done, I think, only 2 times here in the first half, or the first quarter, I should say.
Third down, the ball sits just inside the St. Mary's 45-yard line as quarterback Darren Bethea, a 5'10" junior, leads them up. Time called now by the officials. They'll reset the football, and now ready to go. We'll see if Apollo keeps it on the ground, third and long, or whether they put it in the air. Man in motion, they pitch the ball to Collins, and he is hit by Rusty Bruce, wrapped up and dropped for a loss. And that'll be the final play of the first quarter. There's the gun. The first quarter is over in tonight's AAA Division I championship game. Our score: the Hawks of Apollo 7, the Knights of St. Mary nothing. Back with the second period in a moment. We get set to start the second quarter with Apollo leading St. Mary's 7-0. It was a 54-yard drive in 6 plays, capped off by a 27-yard touchdown run by Conrad Swanson, which put the Hawks on the board. The conversion was good, and Apollo's on the move again. They have the football. It's fourth down, however. They are in St. Mary's territory at the 48, and Rudy Pacheco looks on as the Cinderella Hawks of Apollo trying to cap off the season tonight in grand fashion. They have to punt the football now, so Brian Dotsey, a 5'9" sophomore, 165 pounds, you look at him there, will kick it away to sprinter Mike Richmond, who is standing back at his own 15-yard line. Got the kick away. It's going to go out of bounds. We'll see where the official spots the football. Not a particularly deep kick. We'll see where they spot it. And it'll be first and 10 on the 16-yard line, so an effective punt as he pins him inside the 20. And St. Mary's will go to the offense again.
Number 85, John Coors for St. Mary's, almost gets in here to block it. You see right there, he is shoved back. Coors almost came in there. Nobody touched him on the line, and he was headed straight at the kicker Dotsey, unmolested until the last one.
First and 10 Knights, split backfield with Mull and McGill as they send Kevin Scott in motion. And here comes Mull circling the right side. And he is hit and dropped just shy of the 20-yard line. He got maybe 3 on the play. And finally stacked up there. Jim Drape, the defensive end. And also Kevin Sullivan on the tackle for Apollo. Yards are hard to come by for St. Mary's here in this first half. We haven't seen Reggie McGill very much. This time they send Ricky Lopez, split wide toward the top of your screen. Carlos Rodriguez. Hand the ball off to Scott. On an inside counter from the wingback. He's trying to string out the defense, and he gets out to the 20 or 21-yard line. Make it the 20, and he's forced out of bounds over there. Aaron Turner, one of the people, over there along with Juan Ross. Not much of a gain on the play. It's going to bring up third down and long for St. Mary's as you take a look from the end zone.
Number 89, Jim Drape, is really the man who made that play. He strung out Scott and forced him to go wide. I think there may have been a face mask right there. But Drape has gone down because after forcing Scott to run wide to allow Apollo Hawk teammates to come in and tackle him for short yardage, Drape was picked up again by a St. Mary Knight interior lineman and now is down. That would be a big loss.
It certainly would. He's got great size, 6'2", 220. He's a senior. He goes both ways, and he is really one of the more inspirational players on this Apollo football team. So you see them tending to him right now.
He is a tight end in the Apollo Hawk offensive lineup. And in crucial yardage situations throughout the year, when they needed tough yardage, they went to Drape's side of the line. They ran behind Drape and paid in the early part of the season. See if we can pick it up right here, what happened to Drape.
Here's Turner, number 21, grabbing, yes indeed, could very well have been a face mask call right there. And Drape.
We don't see it.
Don't see it right there, no. But
Drape was handling Musselman at the line of scrimmage and was able to keep the play alive and force Scott wide. But then somebody else from St. Mary's, and we didn't see the number, came back and picked up Drape to try to get Scott around the corner.
He is still being tended to, as you see, down in the field. Our score 7-0 Apollo. We have 11 minutes, 4 seconds to go until halftime of this championship game in AAA Division I. Good to see Jim Drape back up now and heading off the field under his own power. So we would assume he'll be back in this football game. Right now it is 3rd down and 6 to go for St. Mary's. They really need a first down to keep something going here. They have been unable to generate any kind of an offense. Eddie Ball on a run. He's out up over the 25-yard line. Close to first down territory. We'll see where they spot the football and whether or not they call for a measure. Ed Ball, excellent runner. Came out of the game with 92 carries for 495 yards and 6 touchdowns. Had a touchdown run against Chaparral in the playoffs and had a couple of long touchdown runs during the course of the year.
Looks as if the Knights have picked up.
By about half the length of the football, as you can see. 1st and 10 St. Mary's. So they'll maintain possession as the football is out to the 26-yard line. They took over on their own 16. Some fresh replacements coming in for St. Mary's, and Pat Farrell will alternate people throughout the evening as they try and move the football against this very tough Apollo defense. 1st and 10 Knights. Reggie McGill. And McGill hasn't got very much running room. It's back to about the line of scrimmage, no more, before the middle of that Apollo defense, led by big Gary Pay, closes in. Pay 6'6", 230 pounds. He is a senior. Give McGill a yard. Call it 2nd down and 9 as Mike Richmond checks back in for St. Mary's. The Knights were moving before on a completion from Ed Ball on the halfback option to Kevin Scott, but then Rodriguez threw an interception. And Carlos Rodriguez to put it in the air again. He's over the middle, incomplete. Tried to hit his big tight end, Brent Byerly. Let's go down on the field to Chuck Bedoni.
Jim Drape said he was kicked in the side while chasing the tackle, but he says he's all right. He's going to go right back in there on the next series of downs.
Good to hear that, as Drape will be back in for Apollo. Just as you mentioned, he was kicked in the side down on that tackle on Kevin Scott a while ago.
On that last pass play, Rodriguez had 2 men open and should have picked up some yardage, but Rodriguez not off to a good start passing. It is a cold night that's got to affect the quarterback considerably.
You saw the Knight of St. Mary's on the sidelines. Rodriguez will throw. He puts it in the air, and it's almost intercepted. He almost got that one intercepted by Bobby Ray in the secondary. On a 3rd down attempted pass, it'll be 4th down coming up, and the Knights are going to have to kick it away. Pat Farrell's got to be a bit concerned. His offense not moving the football.
This is not a well-thrown ball by Rodriguez. He may have thought he was under more pressure than he actually was, and there's Bobby Ray, who almost picked it off.
So it'll be Byerly to kick it away. Juan Ross, one of the deep backs for Apollo. Line drive kick, but good distance. And he drives it over McIntyre's head. He picks it up back at the 17, gets away from a couple of people, but then it's all white jerseys converging on top of him. Back at the 17, I believe they will spot it. So a great punt by Byerly takes the Knights out of a hole. And Apollo will take over 1st and 10 inside their own 20-yard line. There's the Apollo Hawk. Just how high can the Hawk fly tonight? Right now they're doing all right. They lead 7-0 with 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go until halftime. Apollo has moved the football pretty consistently here in the first half. Tony Collins has carried the brunt of the rushing attack, although Conrad Swanson has scored the game's only touchdown. This is Swanson with the football, and he has converged to punt and drop right at about the line of scrimmage. Got maybe a yard or so on the play. Kevin Scott from the secondary to make the stop for St. Mary's.
Giving assist to Sean Murphy, number 60, who is in the backfield of Apollo, creating all kinds of confusion, slowing up the play.
Swanson had a 65-yard touchdown run against Thunderbird in the opening round of the playoffs in the victory by Apollo, 31-13. And he has scored the only touchdown tonight. Matt Grott comes wide to the near side. Trevor split wide to the right. Inside handoff, Collins, and Collins goes out over the 20 to about the 22 or 3-yard line.
High 8 sweep.
Rudy Pacheco sending in plays from the sideline.
Nothing fancy about that play. Longo made the tackle for St. Mary's. The Hawks, who are much bigger than the Knights, the Hawks average 215 pounds across that offensive line. Just line up on that kind of a play and just trying to blow the Knights out of there.
Timeout called on the field now. There'll be officials' timeout as the football is spotted at the 22-yard line. ASPN happy to be a part of the high school football season. Nice to have you with us for this, the final game of the high school football season for 1985. Stay with us at halftime. Barry Sullenberg will be joining us, and we'll relive some memories of past playoff games around the valley. Hopefully have some highlights of our first game tonight between Gilbert and Cactus. Third down and long for Apollo. Darren Bethea to Collins, looking for running room. He's got a first down. He is out to the 30-yard line, out over the 30. It'll be 1st and 10 Apollo. Boy, he is a tough runner.
Collins does not pick up that first down, and Victor Stizzoni does not make a block in the backfield. Collins stutters here for a moment, trying to find some daylight. It's Stizzoni who throws a block in the backfield that allows Collins to get around the corner.
So it's 1st down Apollo. Double flanker formation. Bauer and Brutt come near side. Collins again. Ooh, he's hit by Kevin Scott. Dropped in his tracks as he gets to the 33-yard line. Good hard tackle by Scott. After about a 2-yard gain. If we get another look at this one. Boy, here's a great pop right here.
But the good news for St. Mary's is that Scott made a very impressive tackle. The bad news is that everybody else in that line for St. Mary's is getting blown off.
It is a big offensive line for this Apollo football team. 2nd down, need to go, hand it off to Swanson. Swanson spins away from would-be tacklers. He's got a first down out over the 45 to the 47-yard line. It's another first down for Apollo on the ground attack. Just keeps on rolling.
Number 72, Rick Marquez, leading the way to get Swanson around the corner. I'm wondering if St. Mary's, or at least Apollo, figured that St. Mary's would be keying on Collins, and that would open the way for Swanson. Watch it right here. 72 is Marquez. That's him leading the way, blocking out, and there goes Swanson.
Nice spin move to kick free, and look at him drag tacklers with him out to the 47. 1st and 10 for the Hawks. They've had an impressive first half thus far. Collins, he drives up into St. Mary's territory, just gets over midfield. Down to about the 49. We got about 4 yards on the play. It'll be 2nd and 6. Just a shade under 6.5 minutes to go in the first half. Apollo leads 7-0.
Well, there are a couple of things you have to worry
Second down and 8. Let's go down to the field to Chuck Bedoni.
Darren, we're moving the ball a lot better against him this time than you did last time. Any reason why?
No, I just think the guys are more determined now to move the ball than they were before because...
Good blocking, huh?
Yeah. This is the first title we can take home to our school, and we really want to do it.
How's your leg? You were limping earlier.
It hurts, but...
You're going out with it. Good luck, Darren.
All right, Darren Bethea, who did indeed injure the leg earlier in the football game, but in a game like this, you do not want to come out. Rodriguez on a roll, puts it up. He's got Reggie McGill, and McGill is tripped up and dropped as he gets to about the 24-25-yard line. Mark Lopez, the tackle for Apollo. They'll put the football at the 24-yard line. It'll be third down coming up and about 4 to go.
That play has been there a couple of times before for St. Mary's, but Rodriguez has elected not to throw to McGill.
Third down. The Knights faced a similar third down their last possession at about the same spot on the field. They picked up the first down, but eventually had a punt of the way. Officials time. You know, we told you that St. Mary's won back-to-back state titles in 67 and 68. They had a 22-game winning streak and were foiled in their bid for a third straight state championship by the Bobcats of Central High School. They lost 14-7 in that state championship game in 1969, which snapped the winning streak at 22. So the Hawks snapped the winning streak at 22 tonight. Well, we still have a long way to go in this one. One of the Apollo defenders jumping, and it was Dennis McCabe, the 6'1" junior. We don't know whether he was drawn offside. We'll wait for the official call. St. Mary's obviously happy, so it must be going against Apollo. Dead ball offside. So that gives the Knights a first down. That's a convenient way to pick it up. So a mistake by the Apollo defense gives the Knights some life. First and 10 from their own 30. 3:17 to go in the first half. Lopez checks in, Richmond checks out. For the St. Mary's Knights, as you look at them on the sideline.
Well, as we start to wind down here in the first half, keep in mind both clubs have all their timeouts.
Rodriguez sends Scott in motion, gives it to McGill. McGill off the right side, gets to the 33 or 4-yard line. He got 3 or 4 yards. Finally hit and dropped. David Hickey from the secondary. Into the stop, second down, about 6 to go.
Good job by Apodaca, the tackle on the right side for St. Mary's on that play. He spun his man in, and that allowed McGill to get through. That's what St. Mary's needs to do. Give McGill a little daylight, and then hope he can cover the rest of the ground himself.
Reggie broke the big one a week ago down in Tucson against Saguaro when he went 28 yards for a touchdown. Scott in motion. Rodriguez to put it up. He's going long, and he's got Byerly, and it's incomplete. Back on defense with Warren Ross. I don't even know whether he got a hand on it, but he certainly must have distracted Byerly.
I'll tell you what, George, we saw St. Mary's play Chaparral 2 weeks ago. Rodriguez threw the ball very well. Here, he had his man wide open and didn't lead him enough. And I don't know if Ross, you say, got a hand on the football or not. Byerly still should have caught it. But on top of that, Rodriguez is capable of throwing a better pass than that. And if he had, it would have been 6 points for St. Mary's.
Boy, Byerly got open in the secondary, but really wasn't led very well by Rodriguez. Third down, long for the Knights. Passing situation. They're going to go long again, trying to hit Lopez. Incomplete. Overcovering Aaron Turner down at around the 31 or 32-yard line of Apollo. It's fourth down and kicking time for St. Mary's. So Rodriguez airing it out on the past couple of plays. That time just a foot race between Ricky Lopez and Aaron Turner.
You know something? Lopez is the only man who goes out on the pass this deep, well, actually this far out from their own goal line. 3 times outside their own 40-yard line, the Hawks have set up.
Inside handoff, Collins. Big yardage on first down as he gets about 5 or 6 yards. He's into St. Mary's territory at the 47-yard line before finally being brought down. Chauncey Ray at the bottom of the pile along with Rusty Bruce. Second down, about 5 to go. Remember, St. Mary's coming into this game through 13 games had given up a total of only 93 points. You see Collins' jersey torn to shatters right there. Our sponsor, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Thanks, telecast. Nice to have them with us. Halfback option. One lost to throw. He's throwing long, but nobody near the football. Double coverage down there on the part of St. Mary's. And the pass goes incomplete. So each team now is trying the halfback option pass.
If it worked for St. Mary's, maybe because they see it enough in practice. Scott, number 24, Ketchup, number 22 for St. Mary's back there.
And St. Mary's only giving up 93 points coming into this game. Take a look at Apollo, and they have registered 6 shutouts in the 1985 season. So 2 strong defense.
Last time we saw St. Mary's on ESPN telecast, they rang up their 3rd consecutive shutout.
And that was against Deer Valley. On a 3rd and long, but they rolls and throws. It's incomplete. He tried to hit Jerry Weber down around the 43-yard line of St. Mary's. The pass incomplete. It'll be 4th down.
Lopez was over there and did pretty good coverage for the Knights.
Minute and 21 to go first half.
So the Knights avoid what could have been a very major problem for them. A bad punt gave Apollo excellent field position, and the Knights refused to allow the Hawks a first down.
The 48th season of organized football at St. Mary's. They've captured 6 state championships, have been runners-up 4 times. Apollo bidding for their first ever state championship in football. Punting time. Hit the kick away. Nice high kick. Richmond inside his 10. Fair catch at the 10-yard line. The Knights will start 90 yards away from the goal line with a minute and 15 to go in the first half.
Either team has spent a timeout. I think you would expect to see at the 10-yard line with only a minute 15 as we look at left to play as we look at the punt once again. That St. Mary's and Pat Farrell would try to keep the ball on the ground and run out the clock and go to the locker room only down by 1 score. If that happens, maybe Rudy Pacheco is going to start spending his timeouts here, hoping to pin the Knights back and give his club one more chance to score before intermission.
That punter Brian Dotsey's done a good job for Apollo here in the first half, pinning St. Mary's deep. And ball on a sweep. Kicks free from 1 tackle. He's out to the 14-yard line for a gain of 4 before he's finally tripped up. 22nd down and 6 to go. 1 minute to go now until halftime.
Well, it looks like Farrell is going to keep it on the ground. Pacheco is not going to use it.
How do you look at it if you're the 2 coaches? That man, Rudy Pacheco, certainly has to be happy. His team's moved the football all night, but he's only got a 1-touchdown lead. Pat Farrell's offense has not been able to move it very well, yet they're only down by a touchdown.
And Rodriguez is not having a good game. You wouldn't expect him to have this bad a night. Maybe he comes out in the second half and is able to get loose enough and start throwing the football better.
Here's McGill, who we have not seen a whole lot of in the first half. He's tripped up and dropped at about the 15-yard line. And Kevin Sullivan, who's played a fine first half tonight, made the stop. Clock running, 20 seconds to go, inside 20 seconds now. That might be the last play of the first half. So 10 seconds to go. Obviously, both teams content to let the clock run out and go to the locker room with Apollo leading 7-0 and start from scratch at the start of the second half. There's the gun. That's the end of the first half. Let's go down to the field now for Chuck Bedoni. Chuck?
Pat, what are you going to tell them in the locker room right now? What's on your mind?
We're getting handled on the line of scrimmage. They're bigger. We knew it going in, and they've just kind of said, we're going to run it at you, and they're doing a good job at it. We just got to play a little more emotion on defense and offense because we're getting whipped on the line of scrimmage.
Best of luck in the second half. Thanks for the time, Pat.
So Pat Farrell, the head coach of St. Mary's, as you take a look at the halftime score. The Hawks of Apollo, bidding for their first ever state title, lead the Knights of St. Mary's by a score of 7-0. Halftime activity coming up next on the Arizona Sports Programming Network.
How did
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our halftime report. This is our final halftime report of the 1985 season because it wraps up the 85 campaign with this championship game you are watching here between Apollo and St. Mary's. Again, joined by the editor of Phoenix Metro Football, Barry Sollenberger, and I thought tonight maybe we would go over some past championship games, playoff games, some games of interest to you and I that we have seen maybe over the years, some real memorable games. I go back, the first one, to the 1970 semifinal game between a Sunny Slope team, which was tremendously outmanned, against the Phoenix Union team that was ranked number 2 at the state at the time.
That's probably the most talented high school football team ever produced in the Phoenix metropolitan area. That Phoenix Union team went into the semis undefeated. That was a team, George, that had Larry Gordon, Zach DeBrill, Rudy White, and so forth and so on. And it was a very similar game to the McClintock Apollo game last week. It ended up a tie, and it went into overtime. Right. Union scored first, missed the extra point. Sunny Slope marched down, scored, and kicked the extra point to win. And then a week later, kind of wished they didn't because they had to play the best high school football team the state ever produced. That was Tucson High, and they just got butchered in the title game. But it was a very similar situation to the McClintock Apollo game of last week.
The following year, 71, Tucson again comes back to the championship game against the Tempe team with Fred Mortensen, and Tempe darn near beat them.
Yeah, one of the best played AAA title games in many, many years. I was down at the U of A,
right.
And Tucson High scored right at the end of the game to beat a Tempe High team that had Fred Mortensen, like 21-14, I think, was the final.
1977, an undefeated team, McClintock. Quarterback Rick Neuheisel leading the way. They go against Washington High School with Mike Pagel, and that was a great championship game.
I was out of town. I didn't see that, though. Neuhauser was a junior that year, and Mike Pagel was a senior at Washington, and that was like a 14-9 game at ASU, a real well-played game and a real close ball game.
McClintock had to come back in that particular football game. They were down 9-6 and marched about 80 yards in the final 5 or 6 minutes to win it. And John Ross was also a member of that Washington team. He went on to a fine career at the Naval Academy. 1979, another team similar to Apollo with 5 losses makes it to the championship game, Mesa High under Ben Arredondo.
Yeah, they lost in the finals to an undefeated amphitheater team, but one of the screwiest playoff games ever was at Sun Devil Stadium the week before. I think it was Maryville they beat when they lost the ball on 4th down, or so they thought, but there was a dead ball foul, and it gave Mesa one more chance. And with no time on the clock, they threw the winning touchdown pass to Sikahima, and that kid's still playing football.
That's right, still played up at BYU and doing a heck of a job. 1980 was a year that McClintock won their second state championship, and the last one they have won. But in the semifinals, they played a very talented Sunnyside football team and upset the #1 ranked team in the state.
Yeah, Sunnyside was super talented. They were undefeated. They were leading the state in scoring about 50 points a game. And they had kids like Fred Sims, David Adams, who's starting at the U of A now. Sims was a state player of the year. John Horton, the wide receiver at the U of A right now. Who's the defensive back at NAU right now? We were just talking about earlier that set a school record for pass interceptions. And they had a real tough time with a much better disciplined and better organized McClintock team. And that is the most recent state championship that McClintock has won.
How about 1969? Semifinal game, St. Mary's riding the crest of a long winning streak. They go down to Tucson in the semifinals, and they beat a previously unbeaten Tucson team, beat them very convincingly.
Yeah, that was when St. Mary's had the sophomore quarterback who was blind in one eye, Tom Baker.
Right.
And they beat Tucson High 56-7 in the semis at the U of A for their 22nd consecutive win, which they have now tied. And that streak was broken the next week in the championship game against Phoenix Central to end that 22-game winning streak. Now, I don't know if how many people out there are superstitious, but here you're going in. They got 22 games in a row,
right.
And they're going to go play an Apollo. They're playing an Apollo team tonight, probably on a damp field, and that happened to them in 1969 also. And I'm sure towards the end of the week, the St. Mary's coaches were doing a lot of praying that the sun would come up and dry up Sun Devil Stadium's turf.
1982, Moon Valley, the Rockets went undefeated under Tiny Putman, won the state championship. A lot of people felt the real state championship game was played the week before the title game in the semifinals at Phoenix College, when Moon Valley squared off against Jess Parker's Mountain View Ball Club, and Moon Valley prevailed 21-14, but some people think that really those were the 2 best football teams that year in the entire state.
Yeah, that was a week later. That state championship game was played here in Sun Devil Stadium again in an absolute mud bath that only drew about 3,000 or 4,000 people because the weather was so bad. And it was kind of unfortunate. You play 14 weeks and you end up playing in real bad weather. I mean, that's why everybody moved to Arizona to play in good weather, and we're kind of hoping tonight that we have good weather conditions.
Well, you know, 1980, 1981, and 1982 saw Trevor Brown make the finals all 3 years. They lost in 80 to McClintock, came back in 81 and won the state championship. They beat South Point in a game played down in Tucson, but in the semifinals, another great football game between Trevor Brown and St. Mary's, which went into overtime.
Yeah, again, another great semifinal game where it was like a 29 to 28 or 28 to 27 ball game. Again, that was a situation where a lot of people felt those were the two best teams, but the way the pairings were set up is they met in the semis instead of the finals. I've always felt that instead of rotating the bracket from division to division for the pairings each season, that the Arizona Interscholastic Association should seed the playoff teams. So where if you have a number 1 and a number 2 ranked team at the end of the season, they aren't on the same side of the bracket. And unfortunately, that happens a lot, and that's something that I think would help improve the gate receipts and the crowd interest in the playoffs also if you keep outstanding teams away from each other on opposite ends of the bracket.
Well, that's about all the time we have tonight for our halftime report. It's always fun going back in time and kind of reliving some of the great games of the past. Barry, thanks so much for stopping by all season long. Been our pleasure. Hope to get together again next year.
And looking forward to it.
All righty. We ask you to sit back now and enjoy the second half of tonight's football game. Apollo and St. Mary's for the 1985 AAA Division I High School Football Championship.
How did Randall's Mesa
Halftime here at the AAA High School Football Championship game. Apollo leading St. Mary's by a score of 7-0, and the only score in the football game coming in the first half. In the first period, when Apollo drove 54 yards for a touchdown in 6 plays, capped off by a 27-yard touchdown run by fullback Conrad Swanson. And the point after by Brian Dotsey was good, and that's all the scoring we saw. It's been Apollo all the way in the first half. They have pretty well dominated play. It's been a very tough ground attack, paced by the running of Tom Collins and Conrad Swanson. Here's the lone touchdown of the first half. You saw the sweep by Conrad Swanson. He cuts it back downfield and goes untouched the rest of the way. 27 yards for a touchdown. And again, Dotsey's conversion good. 7-0 in favor of Apollo. St. Mary's not really able to move the football at all. They had one halfback option pass, which went for a completion, but then Carlos Rodriguez fired this interception. He tried to hit Mike Richmond. You see Aaron Turner cutting across to pick it off, and that thwarted the lone, really, St. Mary's drive of the first half. But Apollo, again, pretty well dominating the offensive portion of things in the first half to take a 7-0 lead at halftime. Mike Shelby, the city manager for Kentucky Fried Chicken, joining us here at halftime of tonight's football game. And we certainly want to thank Kentucky Fried Chicken for being the sponsor of tonight's AAA title ball game. It's been a good first half.
It surely has.
Any favorite in the football game?
No favorites, but I'm just waiting to see the second half outcome.
As far as Kentucky Fried Chicken and their sponsorship of high school football is concerned, and really high school athletics in general, is more planned down the road, Mike?
It certainly is. We really hope to do more. Kentucky Fried Chicken has always been interested in the high school athletics, and we hope to do some more in the future.
So not only football really is on the mind of Kentucky Fried Chicken, but maybe some basketball, baseball, and some other minor sports.
Sure, we're looking into all aspects that we can do.
What type of value does it have to Kentucky Fried Chicken to be a sponsor of an event such as this?
Well, I think that the value you get is the community effort and the involvement that we can help promote this kind of an event.
I want to thank you for stopping by, and again, our thanks to the people at Kentucky Fried Chicken for a fine job.
Thank you very much.
Mike Shelby, the city manager of Kentucky Fried Chicken here in Phoenix. It is halftime of our football game here tonight. The state championship game, Class AAA Division I, with Apollo leading St. Mary's by a score of 7-0. We also want to congratulate the team who captured the the AAA Division II football title in our earlier game out here at Sun Devil Stadium this evening, and that would be the Gilbert Tigers. The Tigers won that football game 27-0 over the Cobras of Cactus High School. 7-0, Apollo leading at halftime. Back with more from Sun Devil Stadium in just a moment. This team, the number of years we've watched him, if need be, he'll pull everything out to try and get this state championship.
Well, there's a reason that he doesn't want to go to them, and I think you'll find a lot of people who agree that when you go to the gimmick plays, it's a sign of weakness. It means the things that you have been doing all year are not working for you. And that's really what the Knights needed to get going as far as winning this football game is concerned. They need to start blocking better, springing McGill, throwing the passes better, and if they can do that, then things might open up for them.
Take nothing away from this Apollo team. It has been one heck of a story. After finishing the regular season 5-5, qualifying for the playoffs, they knocked off Thunderbird, scored in the last 4 minutes to beat Alhambra, and then upset the number 1 ranked team in the state, McClintock, a week ago. They are hungry for a state title, and they lead 7-0. The second half is underway. Low kick, bounding down the middle, coming to Rick Lopez, who feels it is 15, and heads back up the middle, and he's out over the 25 to about the 27-yard line. He's hit and dropped right there, and that's where the Knights will start. 1st and 10 from their own 27.
Number 85, Kilinowski, you see running off the field there, made the stop on Lopez. He had, for a moment, some daylight there, but Kilinowski closed the hole. You want to know where the Hawks were 4 weeks ago when these playoffs started? Only 15 teams in AAA1 had poorer records than Apollo did.
1st and 10, St. Mary's. Scott in motion. McGill looking for running room. Can't find him off the right side. Got maybe a yard, no more. Big Gary Pegg, a defensive tackle at 6'6", 230, made the stop. Give him a gain of 1, call it 2nd and 9.
Now that's the same play that St. Mary's ran on their first possession. First play of their first possession of the night. McGill slanting off to the right side. He got some good yardage the first time he carried tonight, but that time nothing going.
McGill, who has rushed for over 1,400 yards coming into tonight's ball game. Rodriguez on a roll, being chased, gets it away, hits McGill, who's out over the 35. Look at Reggie run out over the 40, and he's out of bounds at the 42. That's good enough for a St. Mary's first down. Tackle made by Mark Lopez from the linebacking spot. So St. Mary's gets a quick first down here in the second half. Watch it again.
Well, this may be the key to getting St. Mary's passing game on track. Instead of trying to throw deep, which they tried to do several times in the first half, throw the short pass. Well, there's another face mask that wasn't called. Get that man on the short pass and let him work his way downfield because he can do it very well.
McGill has averaged over 150 yards a game rushing through about the last 7 games of the season. Against Apollo in the first meeting, he had 80 yards on 10 carries. Rodriguez with a pump fake. He's going long, trying to hit Kevin Scott. He overshoots him down at about the 35-yard line of Apollo. Good coverage in the secondary. Juan Ross, Aaron Turner, all of them over there. And it's incomplete. It'll be 2nd down and 10 to go.
Scott came about 3 yards off the line of scrimmage and then looked back, and Rodriguez wanted to throw him the ball there, but number 82 Sullivan jumped up from his right defensive end position and prevented the pass from being thrown. Had Rodriguez let it go, it would have at least drilled Sullivan in the helmet, if not allowed Sullivan to catch the ball and run upfield, possibly for a touchdown. So Sullivan prevented that pass from being completed.
An injured Bob Thurman on the sidelines being treated for Apollo. 2nd down and 10. Byerly realigns himself at the tight end on the right side, and Rodriguez drops the throw. Has good protection. Throws, has a man open. Mike Richmond complete. First down in Apollo territory at the 46-yard line. Tackle made by Craig Bauer, but it's another first down. St. Mary's is starting to move the ball.
And Rodriguez is starting to throw the football as he can.
So Richmond makes the reception. You take another look. Richmond, a tough man to cover. He's small, only 5'6", but great speed.
Good pattern by Richmond. He ran Bauer off and then came back a little bit, and it was too much for Bauer to recover.
Now Rick Lopez is in at the split end position. Here comes McGill on a sweep. Got a good block. Look out, he's got running room inside the 40. Down to the 37 or 36-yard line of Apollo. He's about a yard shy of a first down. Give him 9 yards, and the Knights are on the move.
I think it was Lopez who gave him a block near the line of scrimmage. It was 64 Delgado who led him downfield. That's number 34 Mole actually throwing a block right there. Here comes Delgado along with number 60 Murphy. And the Knights are on a roll.
Mole threw an excellent block on that run. Second down, a yard to go. St. Mary's in Apollo territory to start the second half. 7-0 Apollo leads. Fumble on the play, and Rodriguez got it back. Back to the 40-yard line. Mix up in the handoff with McGill. Unfortunately for the Knights, Rodriguez covered it.
It was second and short. The Knights had the first down if the handoff isn't fumbled. Murphy was leading McGill through the hole, but now the Knights will have the third down.
A little bit low on the handoff. And fortunately for St. Mary's, it took a good bounce, and Apollo not able to get back to cover. Lopez into the ball game. He wears number 2 on his white St. Mary's jersey, relaying the play to Rodriguez, sent in from Pat Farrell. Now it is third down and about 3 to go. McGill reverses to Lopez, looking for blocking. Lopez, the 40, he's at the 35. He's got a first down, and he's knocked out of bounds. We'll see where they mark the football. Just out over the 35, but it appears from here as though he's got enough for a first down. A reverse, watch it again. Pitch to McGill, and here will come Lopez right there.
Okay, there are going to be 2 blocks thrown for St. Mary's. One right there. We couldn't see the number. That's Delgado, who at least screened Bauer off enough to allow the first down to be picked up.
First and 10, St. Mary's. The ball on the 35-yard line of Apollo. 9 minutes, 13 seconds to go in the third period. St. Mary's driving for the tying touchdown. Here's McGill on a sweep to the left side. Looking for a block, there is none. He runs right over one would-be tackler, Aaron Turner, and then fumbles the ball out of bounds, but he's still got yardage.
McGill is only 5'9", 180 pounds, but he has the capability of running people over. In fact, last week, with the Knights trailing late in the football game, he broke into the open on what proved to be a 28-yard touchdown run to win the football game. He had one man to beat. He didn't run around him. He didn't run by him. He ran him over.
Reggie McGill, who's had a lot of 100-yard-plus games this particular year. Darrell Harris checks into the game, a junior. He replaced Eddie Mull. Harris was a starter a year ago with McGill in the backfield. It was a great sophomore running backfield. Harris injured a good portion of the season. He's in there now. He's got the football. And Harris gets to the 30-yard line, and that's it. He is in and dropped there. Drake, one of the people over in the area of the tackle. It'll bring up third down and 5 yards to go. For the Apollo defense, which has been so tough all year long, trying to hold right here. Key third down play coming up. Remember, St. Mary's has an excellent field goal kicker in Courtright.
And they are within his range right now.
That's right. Third down, 5 to go. Rodriguez on a drop. He has time. He throws it out, and it is incomplete. He had Lopez down at the 20-yard line for first down yardage. But Craig Bauer was over there along with Juan Ross. They shook it free from Lopez. It's fourth down, and here comes Courtright.
Good play by Bauer. He did not allow himself to be driven off the football that time.
Courtright, 18 for 29 in field goals this year. As you look at the last play, he had position, but there's Craig Bauer reaching in and stripping it from Lopez. Courtright, 18 of 29 this year. He is 35 of 50 in his career.
This will be 47 yards.
To try and get St. Mary's on the board, it won't make it. It is short, it is wide to the left. Apollo's defense is held, and they'll take over the football, first and 10. Got to be a bit of a psychological victory now for Apollo. as they saw St. Mary's drive down to about the 30-yard line, but the Apollo defense held. Portwright's field goal is wide, and it will be 1st and 10 Apollo at the 20-yard line of the Hawks. So they consumed about 3 minutes and 35 seconds, did St. Mary's, and they come away empty. Darren Bethea, quarterbacking Apollo, hands the ball off to Swanson. Big yardage up the middle to the 30. He's near another first down, and that ground attack, no different from the first half. It just keeps on moving. Tackled by Mike Richmond from the secondary. Gain of 10. 1st and 10 Apollo. Boy, have they been impressive on the ground tonight. Collins, who made that great touchdown run against McClintock a week ago, he's been impressive again this evening.
You know, earlier in the year, that's what was getting the Hawks in trouble. Everybody knew that they were going to run. They couldn't pass, and so the defensive backs were playing up close to the line of scrimmage. It's only when Bethea was able to start throwing the ball consistently that the Hawks season really started to move on.
Hand the ball off. Here's Collins. Collins gets out to the 32, and he's hit and stuck pretty good. It'll be 2nd down. Let's go down to Chuck Fedoni.
Carlos, you moved the ball a lot better on that drive. Did you make any adjustments at halftime?
No, sir. It's just hard. That's all it is. First half we came out, we were probably a little nervous and everything, but hey, coach said just to come out, play hard, try everything, and hey,
more confidence now.
Confidence. That's the whole key. Confidence.
Good luck, Carlos. Thank you.
No question, St. Mary's looked a lot better on that last drive, but they still came away empty. But it indeed may give them some confidence here the remainder of this second half. Inside counter. And kicking free from one tackle is Bauer. Finally hit and dropped. Bruce hit him first. He shook free and then was finally dropped. Lopez up from the secondary. It's going to be 3rd down and long for Apollo.
Rodriguez's statement is very interesting. It's interesting that it's the defending state champions who are nervous.
Right. That drive, there's no telling how much that may have loosened them up the last time they had the football. It's the first time they've really shown that they can move the ball consistently against Apollo all night.
And they did it through the air.
Mike Alonso in the football game. He is flanked wide near side. Back to throw, no. They hand the ball off in the draw play. And after the 35, 36-yard line comes Swanson no further, and it'll be punting time for Apollo. The St. Mary's defense holds, and it'll be 4th down. Now we talk about field position, and St. Mary's should gain pretty favorable field position on this exchange. Apollo seemed to gain the favorable field position in the first half on the exchange of kicks. Richmond standing back, awaiting the snap. Dauncey steps into it, and a gorgeous kick. Richmond fair catch, his own 32, he makes it there. The Knights go to work 1st and 10. So a good kick that time by Brian Dauncey. St. Mary's with their 2nd offensive possession of the second half. Well, as you mentioned, it's still a long way to go in this football game. You certainly don't want to veer away from what you do well offensively. St. Mary's moved the ball well the last time. Apollo finally stiffened.
Stay tight, bro!
Portwright's field goal was short and wide. Reggie McGill. McGill breaks free and is out over the 40 to the 44. That's a 1st down St. Mary's. He was a step or two away from breaking it all the way. 1st and 10 Knights. No question they're moving the football better here in the second half. One thing we might mention to you, if this game winds up in a tie, if you look at McGill on the last run, if it winds up regulation in the tie, there'll be no overtime. They will declare co-state champions. Here's McGill. Scott in motion. McGill the handoff. Looking for him, finding running room, and he's out to midfield. Finally stacked up. 5-yard gain, 2nd down and 5. They're starting to open up the holes for Reggie. Craig Bauer made the tackle.
Nothing fancy about the St. Mary's blocking this play. Everybody fired out straight ahead. McGill worked his way outside. If Bauer doesn't make that tackle, McGill has some room to scamper.
2nd down. Ball at midfield, 5 minutes to go, 3rd quarter. 7-0 Apollo leading. Mike Richmond. Richmond 19 catches for 347 yards and 4 touchdowns coming into this game. He caught a touchdown pass against Moon Valley in the playoffs first round. Rodriguez with a pump fake over the middle. It's going to be intercepted. Picked off by number 87, Mark Lopez, and he returns out over the 40 to the 43. The second interception thrown by Rodriguez tonight, and Apollo takes over. Big turnover there. Remember, Rodriguez threw only 3 interceptions all year. He has thrown 2 tonight. Here it is.
I don't know if he didn't see Lopez or just figured that Lopez couldn't get over that quickly. You saw he had a man open deep, but he didn't lob it over Lopez as he could have. He tried to throw it by him. Lopez picked it off. So a big break for the Hawks. And once again, here they are setting up outside their own 40-yard line.
You look at Carlos Rodriguez on the sideline. 43, the line of scrimmage. Here comes Collins. Plows ahead to about the 47. He got about 4. It'll be second down and 6. Tackled by Rusty Bruce, the linebacker. Darren Bethea right there, number 7, who was injured in the first half, has stayed in the football game and has gone all the way. Bobby Ray checks into the game for the Hawks with a play from Coach Rudy Pacheco. Second down, 6 to go. The ball at the 47 of the clock. 3.5 minutes to go, third quarter. It's been a fast football game tonight. Not many penalties, not many timeouts. Collins is tripped up. Kevin Scott got his hand on Collins and tripped him out at about the line of scrimmage.
Actually, George, I think it was Sean Murphy who was on the ground, saw Collins try to hurdle him and stuck his hand up and tripped him.
You look at Pat Farrell shouting words of encouragement to his Knights. So we'll see now it is third down, 6 to go. The ball just over the 47 of Apollo.
Win or lose, Pat Farrell really has to be complimented and his staff on what they have done with that defensive unit. 8 juniors start on that squad. It was an inexperienced unit at the beginning of the year and turned out to be one of the best in the state in 85.
But they throws incomplete, in and out of the hands of the intended receiver. And a good hit put on Conrad Swanson, the intended receiver. Chauncey Ray, the middle linebacker, right there to knock it away. It'll be 4th down for Apollo. So it'll be 4th down. Richmond will again drop back deep for St. Mary's, and Brian Dotsey will have to kick it away. 2 minutes, 51 seconds to go in the third quarter.
Well, this is 2 possessions now that Apollo has had here in the second half. And unlike the first half, when the Hawks were controlling the line of scrimmage, neither possession here in the second half have the Hawks been able to pick up a first down.
It's blocked. St. Mary's blocks the punt.
They can run it.
And they can run it if they pick it up. And down goes. But man, there's a penalty marker down. Back at the spot of the punt of Brian Dotsey. And we'll wait for the call. That kick was blocked. No flag. That's a correct call. The ball was blocked, and St. Mary's are going to get great field position out of this one. Watch it again.
Well, the flag was thrown because the official thought that it would be roughing the kicker. He apparently didn't see the block kick. That's number
55. Is that Halverson?
85. Coors had been over there all night.
That might have been Coors.
Running in there almost unmolested. I believe it was
Coors. I believe you're right. Halverson goes the one way on offense. It was Coors. Big play right there. The ball at the 47-yard line of Apollo. Rodriguez on a draw to Reggie McGill, and the hole closes quickly, and a penalty marker goes down. St. Mary's make it called for holding here. McGill got about 2 yards to the 45, but there's a flag down. We have not seen any penalties tonight.
This one's going to go against them.
It's a hold, and I don't know whether it was called on Mike Halverson or not. He was in the area where the flag was thrown. So a block punt on the part of John Coors, just a junior, sets St. Mary's up in good field position. Defense for St. Mary's through this third quarter has played well. And the offense has moved the ball much better than the first half, but it's still Apollo leading.
Well, this is tough. 1st and 25. You almost expect that St. Mary's is going to have to start throwing the ball in the first half.
Byerly coming out of the football game as you look at the penalty situation. Neither team been penalized very much. Rodriguez, who has thrown 9 touchdown passes this year, will screen it to McGill. McGill has running room. He's in Apollo territory. He's at the 30. He's knocked down at the 29-yard line of Apollo. First and 10, St. Mary's.
What a call by Pat Farrell. Drake, number 89 for Apollo, was over there and almost broke up the play. But when McGill got his hands on the football, there was nobody close.
There's a penalty flag down as you see, and the officials converge. We'll see what the call is. Big gain for the Knights. You heard it, a personal foul against the Hawks of Apollo.
You know, it was a personal foul last week in the playoff against McClintock that got the Chargers close to that touchdown. Here it is. That's Drape who almost batted it away. When he missed, there was nobody close.
See if we can pick up the personal foul. Boy, McGill had a lot of running room.
So what happened, George, is St. Mary's sent its receivers out to the right side of the field and then threw back to the left side with where the screen was set up for McGill. Everybody in that Apollo secondary had drifted over to the right side. There was nobody over there to handle McGill.
We did not see the personal foul, at least not from our replay. But this is the deepest penetration of the night for St. Mary's. 2:02 to go third quarter. Knights at the 14-yard line of Apollo. The Hawks lead 7-0. St. Mary's was facing a 1st and 25 when they threw the screen to McGill for big yardage.
And you talk about a game of inches. St. Mary's now inside the 15-yard line because Drape missed by a couple of inches of batting a ball away at the line of scrimmage.
Kevin Scott motions to the far side. Eddie Mull on a sweep. He is hit and dropped. A good tackle. Kevin Sullivan, I believe, again, was the first man to trip him up. Boy, what a game he has had.
Bauer also came up there. What a job by the defensive line of Apollo. Everybody on that Apollo defensive line knocked down his man across him on the offensive line of St. Mary's. You knew almost instantly that play was going nowhere.
So it puts the ball back to the 18-yard line. It is 2nd down and 14 to go. Minute and 20 to go, third quarter. Darrell Harris starts in motion. Rodriguez on a roll. He is hit. He's going to be dropped. Another loss back out over the 20-yard line. Tackle made by Big Gary Pay, the 6'6 senior. And Apollo doing the job again when they have to defensively.
St. Mary's had 4 men out on the pass play, and all of them were not just covered, they were smothered, as was Rodriguez finally.
Big Gary Pay in on the tackle. Ball is at the 21-yard line. Another loss of 3. It is 3rd and 17. Remember the last time St. Mary's had it, Courtwright missed on a field goal attempt. It's a little bit closer now.
At a very tough angle from which to kick.
30 seconds to go, third quarter. Rodriguez on a drop. He's looking screen. He can't find anybody. He's going to have to run it. He's down inside the 20, and he's knocked out of bounds at the 18-yard line. It's going to bring up 4th down, and they'll send Courtwright on to try for 3.
That play was made by number 51, McCabe. He beat his man across the line, forced Rodriguez to run, and when Rodriguez started to run, there was not much he could do with it.
I think he wanted to set up another screen to McGill, but he couldn't get him the ball. Watch him look to his left, right there. Now he's turned back, and McCabe did indeed make the play. Courtwright will try a field goal. They'll mark it on the 26th goal at a 36-yard attempt on an angle. Ball down, kick on the way. It's got distance, and it's good. Career field goal number 36 for Mike Courtwright, who was recently named All-America by USA Today this week. St. Mary's is on the board with 21 seconds to go in the third quarter. It's Apollo 7, St. Mary's 3. So the Knights finally get on the board.
But keep in mind, they were inside Apollo's 15-yard line with a first down and couldn't punch it in.
So we approach the end of the third quarter, and the only scoring thus far in this second half, you just saw it. Courtwright's field goal. 36-yarder, 7-3 Apollo leading. Courtwright will now tee it up and kick it away. Sam McIntyre is back deep. There you see Courtwright. It's good. Remember, he broke Luis Zendejas' national record for career field goals. Swanson is back deep as well, but there'll be no run back. McIntyre takes it to the end zone. They'll bring it out to the 20. that's a great weapon to have in any phase of football, high school, college, or pro. But boy, in high school, when you got a guy who can kick like Courtwright, it's a big plus.
Now, this is just like last week as far as St. Mary's is concerned. The Knights were down 9-0 going into the fourth quarter. As you look at the scoring drive by the St. Mary's Knights to pull within 4. St. Mary's first score in the second half last week against Saguaro was a field goal. They didn't punch it in, but even then it looked as if momentum had changed. If you're on the Apollo side of the field, you have to be concerned. 2 possessions offensively this half and nothing to show for it, not a first down. The Knights have moved the ball. They've finally gotten on the scoreboard.
Collins, inside trap. Look at him run. Shaking free from tackles. He's got another Apollo first down to the 34. What a big night Tommy Collins has had. That jersey's been ripped since the first half, but he has really done a job. And that offensive line's to be commended, too. They've done a great job of blocking for him.
And that's the first down of the half now for Apollo.
That might be the last play of the third quarter. It will be. That is the end of the third quarter of play here at Sun Devil Stadium in the state championship game. Our score, Apollo 7, St. Mary's 3, the fourth and final quarter in a moment.
We put it in for this game.
And it worked real well.
Yeah.
You're running a lot harder now. You get building up your confidence?
Yeah, building up since first half I wasn't doing so hard. Now I'm building more.
All right, good luck, Reg.
Reggie McGill, you see, he's been held in check pretty well on the ground. 10 carries, only 39 yards, but they've sprung him on a couple of screen passes. We get set to start the fourth quarter, the final 12 minutes of the high school football season in Arizona. Apollo leads St. Mary's 7-3. Slot back left side. They flank a man wide left and hand the ball off to Conrad Swanson on a counter play, and it doesn't fool St. Mary's. Stacked up. It'll be third down coming up for Apollo. We'll see where they mark the football.
Ray and Halverson shot through there to stop Swanson, who had a very good first half, maybe his best half of the year.
He's got the only touchdown in this football game tonight, a 27-yard run in the first period. It is third down, 5 to go for Apollo. They have not been able to muster much of an offense here in this second half, but the defense has been tough when it's had to. Tell St. Mary's to put 3 points. Buffet on a drop. The rush is on. He's dropped for a loss. That was John Martinson, the big defensive tackle, 6'1" junior in to make the tackle. Way back to the 30-yard line. It's fourth down and a long way to go for Apollo. They'll have to kick it away again. Again, we talk about field position, and St. Mary's should gain good field position again in this exchange.
That is something the Knights have thrived on here in the playoffs. That is the 18th sack that St. Mary's has recorded since the playoffs began 4 weeks ago.
Dotsey to punt. Inside is 20. Richmond back deep. Kick is away. It's a wobbly kick. With a bounce at the 48. Keep on taking an Apollo bounce, and look at the roll inside the 35, and it's finally dead down near the 30-yard line. 40-yard punt by Brian Dotsey. He got a good roll. St. Mary's has it first and 10 on their own 30. Exactly 10 minutes to go in the football game. Well, the letters are arranged the wrong way, but they got the right idea in mind.
I think they just discovered it.
St. Mary's has it. First and 10 from their own 31 as Rodriguez drops. Pump fakes. Rushes on. He tucks it away. He's going to be hit and dropped back at the 25. That was big Jim Drape in to make the tackle for Apollo. A loss of 5.
Lopez ran a square out pattern to the near sideline, and I think it was by design that Rodriguez would fake the pass and then Lopez would turn upfield. It's unfortunate for St. Mary's. If Rodriguez had delivered the pass on the square out without Lopez turning upfield, they would have picked up some good yardage on it.
That was McCabe, the junior, who made the sack on Rodriguez for a loss of 5. Second and 15. McGill up the middle. Just about got the 5 yards back out near the original line of scrimmage, where it'll be third and 10. Start keeping an eye on that clock now. 8:55 to go in the game. Apollo leading 7-3, trying to snap a 22-game St. Mary's winning streak. Trying to deprive the Knights of a second straight state championship.
This is an important play for St. Mary's, even if this drive does not lead to a score. The Knights, if they have to punt from here, are going to give Apollo pretty good field position.
Firely realigns himself. Passing situation. Rodriguez to throw. Gets it away, and he overshoots his man. He tried to hit Richmond out over the 40-yard line, and he threw it over his head.
Richmond was the only man out on the pass play for St. Mary's, and even at that, the Knights could have completed the pass.
There you see Bauer standing there, conversing with Juan Ross. Two men over in the area of coverage on the pass to Richmond. Firely to punt. 8:26 to go in the football game. We hope you've enjoyed it tonight on ESPN. Brought to you by Kentucky Fried Chicken. Penalty marker down, and this one is blocked. Apollo blocks it, and it's picked out of the air. Picked out of the air, and it's going to be an Apollo football. Now let's check the penalty.
There are 4 flags down on the field right now. 2 on the line of scrimmage, 1 about 40 yards downfield, and another halfway between the line of scrimmage and that deep flag.
This will be a big penalty call. We'll see who it's for. As Apollo broke through to block it right there. And then...
Oh, my.
What a break for St. Mary's. 12 men on the field for Apollo. Nullify the block punt. As you see Brian Zing catch it out of the air. What a break for St. Mary's. That puts the football out to the 45, and it's a first down. What a break.
I have to give the officials credit. 4 of them saw it.
Although they saw it on different parts of the field. Boy, that could be the biggest break of the football game to date.
Good.
Rodriguez. He's going to have to run. He is out over the 50. He's down inside the 45 of Apollo to the 43-yard line. That's going to be another first down. Oh, how that call changed the complexion of things.
Well, again, as I said just a moment ago, even if St. Mary's doesn't score, now it's a matter of Apollo having very poor field position when it takes over, and that could lead to some kind of a St. Mary's score. But this drive isn't over. Can you imagine if St. Mary's wins a football game by less than a touchdown because of that penalty?
Apollo's been talking about that for a long time. Rodriguez to drop. He's going to have to run again. He's hit and drop. That's going to be a face mask. He almost ripped his head off.
Well, I think we've seen 2 face masks in this game that were not called. That one was obvious.
We'll see if it was Gary Pay as a concerned Rudy Pacheco looks on from the sidelines. Watch it again. Rodriguez is going to roll. Sees nobody open. Starts to run, and yeah, it was Gary Pay. Grabbed the face mask, and that's going to move the football even further into Apollo territory. Richmond's coming back in the football game. Here comes Darrell Harris in. 2 very big calls in this game. The biggest one just moments ago. On the block punt by Apollo, they're called for 12 men on the field, giving St. Mary's a first down. Now a personal foul, a face mask call against the Hawks. Puts it at the 34 of Apollo. 7:45 to go in this football game. There's the penalty situation. 14,211. The attendance at tonight's football game for the state championship. Again, our congratulations to Gilbert's Tigers. Division II AAA high school champions. 27-0 winners over Cactus in the opening game here tonight. Well, the second half has belonged to St. Mary's. The first half belonged to Apollo.
You're exactly right. How do you explain it? Why the turnaround after 20 minutes of going in and sitting down? There are no major adjustments that are obvious. Of course, the screenplay, McGill said, was put in especially for this game, but that's not an adjustment that's made at halftime. It's just a decision to call it in that situation. And even at that, it didn't lead to a score on that particular drive. I don't know how you explain it. Maybe Pat Farrell did something, the St. Mary's magic, which we've seen work many times over the years. They come out and they just refuse to let themselves be defeated. Although they are still behind. Let's not take it away from Apollo yet.
Both teams have played exceptionally hard tonight. Reggie McGill, a hole off the right side. He's inside the 30 to the 29 of Apollo. He's got another first down for St. Mary's, and the drive remains alive. Remember,
I was going to say that's Delgado and Murphy and Halverson and Musselman in there leading the way and starting to spring McGill loose, as we have seen him run before.
Eddie Moll checks in with a play from Pat Farrell. Harris goes out. 7:20 to go in the game. Apollo 7, St. Mary's 3 with the Division I AAA championship. Scott in motion, pitch to McGill, sweep the right side, put his head down, and he goes for a gain of 1 or 2. Stacked up at about the 28 or 29-yard line.
A name we've mentioned many times tonight, Kevin Sullivan. He did not make the tackle, but he kept McGill from turning in at the point McGill wanted to go, forced him wide, and as a result, McGill got very little yardage.
That graphic you just saw, great tribute to the Apollo defense. That man, Reggie McGill, has been averaging 150 yards a game over the last 7 games this year.
He finished 5th in the state in rushing after the regular season, and would have finished even higher if he had had a better game against Apollo the first time.
First downs, only 2 separates the 2 football teams. Scott in motion. Here comes the reverse again to Lopez. Oh, and a block was thrown. They're going to get a clip. Lopez is down inside the 20, but they're going to bring it back. They threw the flag, and they're going to call a clip on St. Mary's on Tommy Apodaca. Back at the 35-yard line, there's an injured man down on the field. It is Victor Stazzoni for Apollo. But this reverse is coming back. St. Mary's tried that in the first half as well. There comes Rudy Pacheco to check on Stazzoni.
2 officials called the penalty.
And I mean, they threw the flag as soon as the block was made. It was not any kind of a delayed call. Remember, Lopez carried that inside the 20, but it'll come back. Apollo's only score tonight. Watch it again. Right there.
Well, I'd like to look at it again.
I thought when the block was made, they were going to throw the flag, and they did. There's the indication clip. So another big call. Boy, we've seen some crucial calls here in the last quarter.
I'll go ahead and make some enemies and friends at the same time. I didn't think it was a clip when the play occurred, and I didn't think it was a clip on that replay either.
I don't know if we can roll that back and show it in maybe slow motion, but you just caught a piece of that clip. Now watch it again. I don't know how good a shot. Right there was the call. Well,
I tell you what, looking at it a third time, that was, I have to change my mind. I think it was an appropriate call.
I think it was a good call too. I thought it was when they threw the flag.
It's close.
It is close.
But the head is behind Drape. Drape is a man who was clipped. The head is behind him. Nope, the officials get credit for that one. I was wrong.
It was a heck of a block, I'll tell you that. It is second down and a long way to go. Reggie McGill looking for a hole, couldn't find it. He got to about the 47-yard line or 8-yard line of Apollo. Stacked up there, it's going to bring up third down. Now the Knights have to reach the 19-yard line of Apollo for first down.
Well, I think what they have to try to do here, maybe throw a long pass. It wouldn't be any worse than a punt if it's picked off.
You might remember they tried to play against Deer Valley in a game we covered where they threw down the field complete and then lateral to a player coming by on the side. That might be one of the plays that Pat Farrell's got in the arsenal he hasn't used tonight. We'll wait and see. Third down and a long, long way to go. Rodriguez rolling. He's being chased. Runs out of trouble. Now lets it fly down the field for Lopez, and it's going to be incomplete. He just threw that one up for grabs.
What a mistake by Rodriguez, and Lopez, who also plays defensive back, was playing defensive back on that one.
He sure was. Let's get down to Chuck Bedoni on the field.
Just talked to Victor Stazzone, who was helped off the field, but he's in fine shape. He said he was blindsided, got the wind knocked out of him, but he'll be right back in there.
All right.
Rodriguez was trying to throw the ball away. The problem was he threw it up in the air, and Apollo could have easily intercepted the ball and wound up setting up in St. Mary's territory.
Apollo ready to receive the punt of Brent Byerly. Byerly gets it away. Low kick, bounces down inside the 20, inside the 15, inside the 10, and it rolls dead at the 6-yard line. 5:11 to go in this game. Apollo's pinned back at their own 6. They'll have it first and 10.
From a realistic standpoint, after the clipping penalty was called, this is about the best St. Mary's could have hoped for.
The defense, which has held Apollo throughout the second half, is Brent Byerly, who just punted that one dead on the 6. St. Mary's defense, which has played well in the second half, is now going to be called upon to hold Apollo, force the kick, and get good field position for what might be the final drive. We have under 5 minutes to go now.
When they're in trouble or when Apollo needs yardage, they run Collins behind Pay and Drake.
There goes Collins, and not much running room. He got maybe a yard or so where he's stacked up and dropped. Kevin Scott off the bottom of the pile. And also Halverson.
All right, timeout. Also assisting number 24. Timeout.
Give him a gain of 1. Second down 9.
1 yard.
Rudy Pacheco. Rudy's ball club 4 minutes plus away from a state title. Timeout called Apollo. And Rudy Pacheco's going to talk to his quarterback Darren Bethea. What a story this has been.
Win or lose, you really have to hand it to Apollo. They went eyeball to eyeball with McClintock last week and didn't blink, and that's why they're here. That defense has really been an outstanding unit here in recent weeks, and really throughout the year. It's been the offense that gave problems for Apollo, and St. Mary's as well. The two teams who wanted to be here the most are here, and it's been a good football game.
14,000 plus looking on here at Sun Devil Stadium tonight. And a 7-3 score with Apollo leading. The only touchdown coming in the first quarter on a 27-yard run by Conrad Swanson. And then the Knights of St. Mary's answering with a third quarter field goal by Mike Courtwright of 36 yards. Now St. Mary's defense trying to hold Apollo deep in their own territory, trying to get the football back for what might be one last go at it.
You know, I tell you what, win or lose also, Apollo is going to be an inspiration for a great many coaches and teams in years to come.
Absolutely.
Because with the expanded playoff format that's been in place now for about 6 or 7 years, there are a lot of teams that get into the playoffs with 3 or 4, or this year Apollo with 5 losses. And you can bet every one of them is going to be looking to the Apollo team of 1985 and see and remember what they have done.
Second and 9 from the 7-yard line. Bethea to put it in the air. He throws incomplete. Incomplete as he tried to hit Mark Lopez up and around the 15 or 16-yard line. It'll be third down, and there you see Rick Lopez covering on Mark Lopez.
I wonder how many times this year Apollo has thrown a pass inside its own 10-yard line.
They threw one last week from their own 20, and it went 80 yards for a touchdown against McClintock when the defensive back fell down. Third down. Big play here for both football teams. And there you see the Knights sideline with Pat Farrell looking on very anxiously. We hope to get a word with the winning coach after the game, so stay with us. Swanson on a sweep. Scott chasing him down. And he's driving for first down yardage, and let's see where they spot the football. Let's see where they give him the mark. Boy, that was a great effort by Swanson.
He had 3 or 4 players all over him. He's going to make it very close. I think he's going to wind up short.
Kevin Scott was hanging on for dear life, and Swanson eyed that first down marker and just kept on driving.
This is a picture of determination.
Look at that effort.
I tell you what, Ray and Scott are not sloppy tacklers either.
And Morquecha was in there too, and yes, they held him about a yard shy of a first down. Fourth down. Look at the night Swanson's had. That includes the 27-yard touchdown scamper in the first quarter. 4 minutes, 15 seconds to go in the game. Dotsy to punt. High snap, gets it down, rushes on. It's caught by St. Mary's, and it's picked up. Rolls in the end zone. It is a, let's see if they call it. They call it a touchback. They went out of the end zone.
It's a safety.
It's a safety for St. Mary's, and they'll get the football back. They had a golden opportunity to recover that for a touchdown, and it kept slipping away.
There's Lopez. He was all alone with the football, and it squirted out of his hand.
So it's a safety. The score is now 7-5 in favor of Apollo. St. Mary's going to get it back. Watch it again.
Who got it? Number 30 for St. Mary's.
Chris Irich, 5'11" junior, blocked it. Now look at the mad scramble.
That was Coors who almost fell on it about the goal line. It squirted into the end zone. There's Scott. I thought Lopez had a shot at it. Lopez was just frustrated. Scott had a chance. It squirted out of the end zone. The question you have to ask yourself is this. St. Mary's almost had a touchdown, or at a minimum 1st and goal at about the 1-yard line. They wind up with only 2 points. Is Apollo a team of destiny, or is this a stay of execution for the Hawks?
They're going to get a free kick from their own 20. So St. Mary's going to get it again. So a block punt results in a safety for the Knights.
Remember now, the Knights are within 2. The foot of Courtright can win them the football game. And something else to keep in mind. The reason that Apollo was in that position in the first place was because of that penalty when the Hawks had 12 men on the field back around the 30-yard line that kept the St. Mary's drive alive and finally allowed the Knights to kick from midfield to put the ball deep in Apollo territory.
Apollo trying to hang on the final 4 minutes of this game. They lead 7-5. They have not allowed a touchdown tonight. But the Knights have been coming on like gangbusters here in the second half. They just blocked a punt out of the end zone for a safety. The free kick coming to Lopez at his own 35. Cuts it back upfield. He's in Apollo territory at the 48-yard line. It'll be 1st and 10 St. Mary's from the Apollo 48. St. Mary's with another opportunity here.
2 block punts have been the story for the Knights. The first one set up a field goal. The second one gave the Knights 2 and the football in Apollo territory.
Richmond, as Pat Farrell looks on. Richmond, bottom of your screen, flank. Lone running back, McGill. He's got the football. Cuts it inside. He's going to go all the way. Reggie McGill for a St. Mary's touchdown.
George, before we say anything else, I want to say 2 words. Morris Delgado. He's one of the Smurfs. He threw the block that may give St. Mary's the state championship.
Pat Farrell and the Knights on the sidelines.
They want timeout. They should go for 2 right here. 1 doesn't do them any good.
Reggie McGill, last week, 2 minutes to go in the game. He goes 28 yards for the game-winning touchdown. Tonight, 3:40 on the clock. He goes 47 yards. For the touchdown that puts St. Mary's ahead for the first time tonight. It is 11-7 St. Mary's. Well, they've had a lot of prayers answered this year.
Delgado is 64. Watch right there. He knocks his man to the ground, and bye-bye McGill.
You give him a step, you're not going to catch it. Watch it again from another angle.
They've run this play a lot here in the second half. 60 Murphy also. Let's not forget him. He kicked his man out.
And Reggie McGill does the rest.
McGill cut inside Delgado, but Murphy was performed just as an important a task on that play as well, forcing his man out.
McGill had been held to but 39 yards rushing until that scamper. So now it's St. Mary's leading 11-7. Apollo will get the football back for what might be their final chance at victory. What a second half of football tonight. The first half belonged to Apollo. They were up and down the field. They dominated that offensively. They led 7-0 at halftime. St. Mary's come back in the second half and about scored the Hawks 11-0. They'll try for 2. McGill with a pitch. Trying to get in, he won't get there. He is stacked up short of the goal line. So with 3:40 to go in the game, the score remains St. Mary's 11, Apollo 7.
It is not that big a factor that St. Mary's didn't pull the 2-point conversion successfully. If the Knights had scored, it would have made it 13-7, meaning the Hawks would have needed a touchdown and an extra point. Now just a touchdown will give the Hawks the lead and possibly the victory. In either case, the field goal will not help the Hawks.
Let's go down on the field right now to Chuck Bedoni.
What was the play? It looked like the same sweep you've been running. What broke for you?
Just the double toss. The line did everything right this time. They got all the blocks right.
Great run, Red.
Reggie McGill, got to be a happy St. Mary's night right there.
Remember what we were talking about at the beginning of the game, the one thing St. Mary's had that maybe Apollo did not? A game breaker.
You're right. Courtright to kick it off. This one will not carry into the end zone. It'll come down to the 10-yard line. Sam McIntyre has some running room. He's at the 35. He's out over the 40-yard line to the 43. A great run back by McIntyre of 33 yards. Gives Apollo good field position with 3:32 to go in the game.
Don't go away, friends. Apollo hasn't quit at any time this year.
Boy, how momentum has switched time and again in this second half. Watch it again. McIntyre, who wears number 65 on his blue Apollo uniform, finds a little hole and cuts it right back. First and 10, Apollo. Roll at the 44-yard line, their own. The fade to throw. He'll screen. Comes out to Collins. He's in the St. Mary's territory, and Kevin Scott had him wrapped up. He kicked away, and he got down to the 46 of St. Mary's. He's close to a first down, maybe a foot or so short. Collins on that screen. Boy, he's a tough runner. He just will not be denied. And Apollo trying to come back. Here's another look at that last play.
Little pressure there applied
by Martinson.
Collins, who broke the run for the touchdown in the playoff against McClintock last week.
Collins off the field. What a big night he has had. Give him an A+ for effort tonight.
Let's see, last week, St. Mary's took the lead with 2:51 remaining in the game. This week, they take the lead, what, with 3:04?
Right. 3:40, I believe, to go in the game.
It's going right down to the wire for St. Mary's, and it's as it is for Apollo. Apollo in the playoff. The Arizona playoff last week to get here to the championship game.
Collins, in the quarterfinal win over Alhambra, rushed for 146 yards and a lone touchdown. He's had a big night tonight. Will it be enough? Here's Swanson. He's down inside the 45 to the 42-yard line. 2:46 on the clock.
Well, one thing we can predict with absolute certainty, I believe, there will not be co-champions this year.
That's for sure. We mentioned if the game ended in a tie tonight, they would crown co-champions. There's a 4-point differential now. St. Mary's trying to go 14-0 and win their 7th overall state title, their 2nd in a row. Apollo trying to deny them that and win their first ever state football title. The fade to throw, he's got a man, it's incomplete. Or is it a fumble?
Oh,
is it a fumble? I believe the ball is live, yes! They rule it a fumble and a recovery by St. Mary's.
Oh, they're not happy on the Apollo sideline.
We're gonna have to get another look at that one. 2:24 on the clock.
This decision could be the football game.
Watch it again. Bethay's gonna throw.
No.
I don't believe he ever had possession.
Friends, that is an incomplete pass.
That's Jerry Weber, and they called it a completion and a fumble. Watch it from another angle. I don't believe he ever had possession. He's hit as soon as he touched it. Came free, but the official said no.
There's a St. Mary's player who was hurt.
See who that is down. Boy, that's a big, big call. Rusty Bruce, that is, number 87, the linebacker for St. Mary's. So a big, boy, there's been a lot of key calls tonight in the second half.
2:24 left to go in the game. If St. Mary's does not pick up a first down, assuming they don't fumble the ball away, and have to punt, Apollo would get the football back with less than a minute to go. Keep in mind, although it shouldn't be a factor anymore, but keep in mind the Hawks have already spent one of their timeouts here in the second half. That was when they were back on the 7-yard line with a 2nd and 10. They called timeout, came out through a pass play that went incomplete.
You know, it's amazing if you go back over the history of St. Mary's, just how many games have been decided just like this one's been decided tonight, where they've trailed, time running out, come back and get a late break one way or another and win the football game. They did it tonight with a blocked punt for a safety. Got the ball back and broke McGill for a 47-yard touchdown as Rusty Bruce gets helped off the field. Rusty Bruce, he returned an interception, 67 yards for a touchdown against Moon Valley in the opening round of the playoffs, which clinched the St. Mary's win.
In all the commotion over there on the far sideline, I don't believe we
were able to determine who recovered the fumble for St. Mary's.
I don't think so either. But we certainly hope that young man is not injured seriously. Does not look good as he limps off the field. Boy, what an effort he's put forth in his career. And he's only a junior. He'll be back again next year. Watch it again. They hit there by Lopez. The ball comes free. They rule it a fumble. Left side of your screen. Watch number 87 there. He gets hit. He goes down, and there, Bauer is on top.
You know, it looked as if Lopez had it for a moment, lost it, and it was number 9 Richmond who made the fumble recovery for the Knights. Rodriguez on a bootlegger on the left side, and he's in trouble. He's going to get hit and knocked back at about the 35 or 34. Lost a couple. The biggest killer of time is running a sweep, and the Knights killed a lot of time with that play. Apollo happy that they stopped the Knights for a loss. Time is the ally of St. Mary's right now.
And I wonder how many timeouts Apollo's got left. They called one, I believe.
2 left.
2 left. Here's Rudy Pacheco. Boy, his team has played well.
I don't understand why they didn't call one right there.
One of the assistant coaches, you saw him show timeout, timeout.
They let more than 30 seconds run off the clock.
Pitch to McGill on a sweep. Reggie looks for running room. Penalty marker comes in the pile as he's out to the 39. Clock will stop now with 1:21 to go. If the penalty's against St. Mary's, do you take the penalty or do you let the down go and make it 3rd down? There's Pat Farrell, the back of him. Lopez coming off to meet his coach. And Pacheco on the opposite side of the field. 2 great coaches. They'll be commended for a great job.
We saw Pat Farrell about a month ago at the Deer Valley game, first weekend in November. He said at the time that his club was not playing as well as his team from last year. And in fact, he said he was very surprised they were undefeated. He did not think they were a state championship team. He is 81 seconds away from doing something that no Arizona high school team has done since 1968, when St. Mary's repeated as the AAA state champion.
And we might mention that Pat Farrell was a member of that 67-68 state championship team.
Here again, the clock is running. Apollo has timeouts, and they are not being used.
It is 3rd down. Rodriguez on a pitch to McGill. Coming the left side. Can he get the first down? No, he'll be short. Now Apollo will spend a timeout. Stop the clock. 56 seconds to go. They'll get the ball back for one final crack. Byerly will come on to punt. I would expect to see Apollo sending everybody after Byerly on this kick. Pat Farrell's on the field with his team, and you can bet that's exactly what he is telling them. They're going to send everybody. Just get a good, clean snap and get it away as quickly as possible. 56 ticks of the clock.
Which means that assuming the punt is kicked and not blocked, Apollo will get the ball back with about 45 seconds remaining in the football game and 1 timeout. Scoreboard says 2, but
I thought Apollo called one earlier.
They did. This is the 2nd timeout of the
right. So here we go. Byerly standing inside his 30 to punt. Apollo with everybody on the line of scrimmage. They're ready to send everyone. There's the snap. Here they come. He gets it away. He also gets hit and goes down. There's no flag. The punt goes past McIntyre. It's a good kick rolling down to the 10-yard line of Apollo. They're 90 yards away from the winning touchdown. They got to go 45 seconds. That's a long way to go in 45 seconds.
Let's see, about 2 yards a second.
On the kick, Byerly went down. You see him there. Watch it again. He goes down. The referee looked right at him and said no. He was hit.
I have to believe the only way that call is not made is because the official believed that there was no contest.
So here we go. They start the clock. And Apollo doesn't have the right players on the field. This clock is running, and they're not even huddled up.
And they have a timeout.
Now a timeout is called on the field.
They've just wasted 12 seconds.
Unbelievable.
Well, no, wait a minute. Let's not criticize Apollo. That clock maybe was started. No. The clock was properly started.
It was properly started. The official waved to start the clock. And Apollo did not have the 11 men on the field. The 11th man came on late, and they lost 12 seconds.
I am not going to try to begin to explain the difference between high school rules and college and professional rules as far as starting the clock, except that there is a significant difference. And to get accustomed to watching college and professional football, it strikes you as being odd to see the clock started in certain situations. The reason I make the point is this: it seems that too many times during the years we have seen coaches and teams surprised that the clock has been started as well.
Final 33 seconds. St. Mary's leads 11-7. Darren Bethay has gone all the way at quarterback. Swanson and Collins are the running backs. Bethay to throw, puts it out over the middle, and it is incomplete up at the 25-yard line. Borchetta was over covering on the play, tried to hit Greg Bauer. 29 seconds to go. St. Mary's was down 7-0 at halftime. Kortright got a 36-yard field goal, third quarter, to get him on the board. They blocked the kick. It rolled out of the end zone for a safety in the fourth period. That closed the deficit to 7-5. St. Mary's took the ensuing kickoff. And Reggie McGill went 47 yards for the game-winning touchdown. Could be the game-winning touchdown, with 3:40 on the clock. Now there's 29 seconds left, and Apollo's got a long way to go. Bethay throws. It's complete. He's got Matt Brott over the 20. Wrapped up and dropped at the 21. They'll stop the clock with 21 seconds to go. That's good enough for a first down. They'll reset the chains.
Apollo ought to be on the ball right now.
Pat Farrell and his staff looking on anxiously.
My good buddy John Secker down here.
Who would have believed at the start of this year that this football team had a chance to repeat as state champions? They're seconds away from it right now. Our congratulations to both teams. They've had great seasons. Pass complete and out of bounds. Up at the 30-yard line. Now there's 14 seconds on the clock.
Well, the problem for Apollo is there's not enough time to be running sideline patterns for 10 yards.
Well, our thanks to all the people at St. Mary's and Apollo. Pat Farrell and Rudy Pacheco, the coaches, their staffs. Jim Sanford, the athletic director at St. Mary's. Sid Bailey, the athletic director at Apollo. Tony Comedina, AIA executive director. Don Follett, Tom Cornwall, Tom Sadler out here at ASU. The Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dick Stewart, and Kramer Krasselt Advertising, who really, they were the people responsible for getting us on the air for this telecast.
This is the first time that the state high school football championship game has been televised.
That's right.
And to Dick and everybody at Kentucky Fried Chicken, not only congratulations, but thanks for the chance.
That's right.
It's been as exciting for us as it has been for the players down in the field.
They were the driving force behind this. And now St. Mary's is 14 seconds away from a state championship. Their legion of fans waiting to mob the field. And Apollo, oh, what a great year they've had. There's Pat Farrell. Super gentleman, great to work with, so cooperative. Rudy Pacheco across the way. Just real nice gentlemen. To throw, they get in the way, it's complete. There's the lateral. And down at the 44-yard line, they'll stop the clock. 6 seconds to go. They'll reset the chains and start it again. Apollo will be right up to the football.
There's time for one play, maybe two if they use this one to throw the ball out of bounds to stop the clock and set up the last play.
Got to get it rolling. The clock is started. 5 seconds to go. St. Mary's has 4 men back at their own 20-yard line. They throw it out of bounds. That'll stop the clock. The game is over. It's all over. And St. Mary's reigns supreme in 1985. They win their second straight state championship. They cap off a perfect 14-0 season as they defeat the Apollo Hawks in this Division I title game 11-7 before over 14,000 at Sun Devil Stadium. Boy, what a football game. Both teams showing great determination, great heart. Boy, you wish in a game like this you could really crown co-state champions. They both played magnificently here tonight.
Apollo won the first half, St. Mary's won the second half. The difference being St. Mary's did a little bit better job in the second half than Apollo did in the first. The Hawks had a chance to really put the Knights in a deep hole and only went to the locker room 7-0. They felt good about it at the time, including that man Rudy Pacheco. Looking back on it, they probably undoubtedly wished that they had done more with it. If you have to look at one play in tonight's game that made the difference, There was a 12 men on the field and the penalty that kept the drive alive.
It was a key penalty, no question about it. There's your final tonight. Crown St. Mary's the state champion. We'll come back with a wrap-up in just a moment. Division I state championship game at Sun Devil Stadium. St. Mary's winning it down 7-0 at halftime. The Knights come back to win it 11-7. A field goal, a safety, and a 47-yard touchdown run by Reggie McGill with 3:40 to go was the margin of difference. Let's try and get down to the field now and get a word with winning coach Pat Farrell with Chuck Pedoni.
Thank you.
That's the presentation of the state championship trophy. Second year in a row, St. Mary's has claimed that prize. Great tribute to the program at St. Mary's. Not many students. They really get outmanned almost everywhere they go, but they seem to fight and claw their way to victory year in and year out. They've got a right to chant we're number one. 14-0 season. They beat Apollo twice this year. Once 10-0.
As he starts walking over this way, we get out of this
and
crowd.
Tonight by a score of 11-7. And you can see it's bedlam down on the field.
The voice you heard, or I think you heard, was Chuck Pedoni.
St. Mary's beat Mesa in 1941 for a state title. They beat North High in 1949 for a state title. They won an unofficial state title in 51. They beat Pueblo of Tucson in 67. Knocked off Douglas in 1968 for the state title. And in last year's championship game beat Tucson Saguaro, and they come back here tonight to knock off a tough Apollo football team.
Well, not to take anything away from the moment, but what about next year? This was a rebuilding year for St. Mary's. Right. They started 8 juniors on that outstanding defensive unit.
Thank you very much for coming down.
Let's see if we can pitch it down to Chuck Pedoni for an interview down on the field. Chuck?
Hey, I remember you carrying one of these off a couple years ago, Coach.
Pat, what turned it around for you in the second half?
Thank you, Coach.
What turned it around for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was the exact same situation we had against Tucson Saguaro last week, excuse me. We were down at half. We told the kids, hey, we've been here before. We've been here before. Let's just go do what we did last week one more time. And I think the kids, they believed in themselves. They said, yeah, we did it last week. Let's go do it again.
Have you ever been in a more exciting game than this?
Oh, boy, I'll tell you what. My heart's had it. But you go forever.
It's a great 23, right?
It is a great 23 and hard-earned.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
One shot, Coach. You in the night.
Pat Farrell, the head coach of St. Mary's, obviously pleased and relieved, and you can bet his heart was pounding a bit in that second half when he saw Reggie McGill again pull out the big play. He did it a week ago against Tucson Saguaro, going 28 yards for the winning touchdown to get them here, and then tonight he goes 47 for the winning touchdown to give them the state title, winning it 11-7. Your final thoughts, Doug?
I think from up here, a great deal of admiration to both football teams. The Apollo Hawks lost 5 games during the regular season. A group of kids of 15, 16, 17 years old could have quit at any time. They showed a great deal of maturity and a great deal of class to come through the playoffs and get this far, and came within 4 minutes of winning the state football championship. And to St. Mary's, a bunch of little runts, scrawny kids who wouldn't quit and win the state championship for the second year in a row. I think more than anything else, an outstanding football game and a great deal of admiration to both coaching staffs and both football teams especially.
Look to both football programs again come 1986 and what they will have to offer for the state of Arizona. Certainly we know St. Mary's are going to have a whole lot back. They've got great freshmen and JV teams. They'll have some talent coming up from there. And again, they started 8 juniors this particular year, so they're going to be loaded come next year. And when you got a coach like Rudy Pacheco, you can bet the Apollo Hawks will be tough to deal with in 1986 as well. It really was a Cinderella story for both teams. St. Mary's was not expected to be here. Certainly Apollo finishing the regular season 5-5, not expected to go very far in the playoffs. That man on your screen, what a great deal to be proud of. He broke the winning touchdown run tonight. He was the heart and soul of this offense all year long, and when it came crunch time tonight, he was there to deliver.
Think you'll have a few colleges knocking on his door next year?
A few